Hello everyone, welcome to my stream today on how to play D&D in a Warcraft setting. I did a sound test and everything should be working just fine, but let me know in the chat if my voice is too loud, too quiet, if the music's too loud or too quiet, or whatever issues they might be having. So, welcome. I don't have a ton planned, like solidly for this stream today. I've just been thinking about. I just really love D&D 5th edition. Been playing it for about 4 or 5 years now. I was always interested in some of the older versions, but I never got to play them. And of course, as you guys know, I'm very interested in Warcraft, which is why probably you guys are here. So I've got some materials here today, and let's just kind of work together and see how we can sort of brainstorm some ideas for making Warcraft playable in 5th edition. I'm sure it's been done before. I'm sure there are lots of resources online. I've seen quite a few of them, but I think it'll be a fun thing to just sort of talk about and hang out and do today. So I've got here the Warcraft RPG books for 3rd edition. I really enjoy them. There's the Warcraft role-playing game. There is the monster manual that comes with that. There's Magic and Mayhem, which talks about how to do some interesting magic systems and technology systems. You know, because goblins and gnomes are always making crazy steampunk technology in Warcraft. And then there's the Alliance and Horde Compendium, which comes up with interesting. Well, it's a little bit of a guide to role-playing each faction, the Horde and the Alliance. And it also has some interesting extra classes and prestige classes that we could look into. There's Lands of Conflict, which is basically, this is mainly a campaign setting, because the Warcraft 3 RPG takes place mainly in Kalimdor. And oh yeah, my stream is mirrored, that's right. Okay, well, we're not going to be reading, I'm not going to be reading these to the thing. I guess I could flip it for a, let me just go ahead and flip it just for the time being. There we go. Thanks for pointing that out. So, Lands of Conflict. The first RPG takes place in Kalimdor because that's mainly where things started sort of taking place after Warcraft 3, and these books came out right after Warcraft 3, before World of Warcraft. So it's an interesting transition between the two, honestly. There's some lore differences that are very intriguing that are obsolete now because they've been explored in World of Warcraft, which is canon, and this is not canon. But some of these things I like better, so it's kind of interesting. Anyway, Lands of Conflict returns things back to the Eastern Kingdoms. Azeroth, this was made probably very close to when World of Warcraft came out because it talks about the Explorers Guild of Cosmodon. It talks about the Plague Lands. There's even a thing about Van Cleef, which I thought was very interesting. And it's something that it's okay. It's got a few sample adventures too, and I've actually run one of the adventures 3 times now as a way to kickstart campaigns, and it's not bad. You might look at that too, who knows. And then last of all, there is Shadows and Light, and this is the epic version of, it's got epic rules for beyond level 20 or whatever. If any of you guys are into 3rd edition, I'm sorry. I haven't played it very much. I had the source books for a while, and I was into them for a little bit of time. But once 5th edition came out, and I was reading, and I got into 5th edition, I just honestly, the 3rd edition was just obsolete for me. I just do not. I have no desire to play 3rd edition. It's so overly complicated, in my opinion. it's so just outdated, and I just like clarity and streamlinedness and actually playing the game for, you know, the actual role-playing aspect and having fun, as opposed to checking up rules every 2 minutes and adding up the pluses and bonuses and penalties for enhancement and situation and morale and blah blah blah. So I really like 5th edition because of the advantage and disadvantage, all of that stuff. So let's get, just to get started, let's just do kind of a fun little thing where I'm going to get onto D&D Beyond, and just for the heck of it, let's go ahead and take a look at the classes on Warcraft 3 and how you could build them as D&D, as actual D&D classes on 5e. So let's go and lay these things out. By the way, let me know if the let me know how the music is. It might be a little. In fact, here, I can't even really hear it. I'm not sure what the difference is between what you guys are hearing and what I'm hearing, so it might depend on the song, but if the music's too loud, let me know. And if you guys have any questions for me about anything, it doesn't have to be about D&D or Warcraft. If you just, you know, the channel, anything that you guys want to ask me, let me know. This is kind of just a hangout stream as well. If you guys want to, yeah, ask me anything, feel free. Whoa, it's a little loud. All right, you know what? Let me just turn down the speakers a little bit, and then turn up the music a little bit. Hopefully that'll ease it out. All right. Got all these. We got dead heroes. Keeper of the Grove. Priestess of the Moon, Demon Hunter, Warden, and all the neutral heroes. Whoa, what is that? Why does it have that picture? Oh, that's the Sea Witch from the original Exodus of the Horde thingy. Alright, we got our Goblin Tinker, we got our Beastmaster, Pendarn Brewmaster, Dark Ranger, Fire Lord, and Pit Lord. And to be fair, some of these in the campaign might have different classes, so let's put in a few of those. Let's go with, where is he? It doesn't have the right portrait for him, even though it's in the game. What am I looking for? Oh yeah, Proudmoore. Put him on there for the heck of it. We'll put Jaina, because she looks different from an Archmage. Maybe we'll find something. We got a Ranger. And I don't know, I mean, we could put Lord Garithos on there. He's a unique type of hero. He's a Dark Knight, I think. That's kind of pathetic. And it's there inside the Strider, and it's just a spell breaker. That's funny. Anything else? Any other unique ones we got here? Rexar's samey. We got, I guess, Possessed Crom Hellscream, but that'd just be like, what, level in Warlock? I don't know. I was more thinking of... What was I thinking of? Oh yeah, like Furion. Oh gosh dang it, he's always on a stag. Oh well, that's fine, I guess. In fact, yeah, for what I... Okay, so, here we go. Not really a fan of that red color. Let's change it to something more pleasing on the eye. Alright, everybody, face forward. Okay. So, let's just, I don't know, let's just have some fun making these in D&D classes. So, Paladin would obviously be a Paladin of, with the Oath of Devotion. It's a very simple, very classic class. Not really much interesting about that. I also think, oh yeah, Arthas, yeah, sure, I'll add him too. And, I mean, this would be fun to do, like, you know, like more specific heroes as well, because I think there are some differences. In fact, so, let's go ahead and get D&D Beyond open as well real quick. Alright, so, let's go ahead and go view the classes. So for Paladin, I'm thinking that Uther and just in general, the Paladins of the Silver Hand, they'd probably do just the normal vanilla Paladin oath, which is the Oath of Devotion. It's honesty, courage, compassion, honor, duty. That all fits the Silver Hand really well. Arthas, on the other hand, would be the Oath of Vengeance. Fight the greater evil. He thought he was fighting the greater evil, you know, by hunting down Mal'Ganis instead of saving his people. You know, he killed them or whatever. And this is definitely not a... This is more of a lawful neutral or lawful evil class, so I think that would fit pretty well. No mercy for the wicked. It's definitely what he did by any means necessary. That is the culling in a nutshell. Not even in a nutshell. That is just like culling spelled out by any means necessary. And that's the means he thought was necessary, and he didn't have any qualms about it. And restitution, I must help those harmed by their misdeeds. Kind of fits, I guess. All right. So yeah, let's go. Let's see. I don't know. I'm just gonna do something for fun here. Okay, the ones that are done, I'm gonna put into that down around field. I don't know why. I'll just be for fun. All right. Archmage. They have Summon Water Elemental. They have Blizzard. Brilliance Aura doesn't really have a place in D&D because of the use of spell slots. If you did use the optional spell points variant that's listed in the DMG, that might be a thing. I don't know. But given that his abilities are, he conjures ice falling from the sky, he conjures an elemental to fight for him, and he teleports people, Archmage has definitely got to be a conjuration wizard. Because all of the spells as shown on the game just fit that way. Conjuration is all about summoning things, teleporting things, and some spells, you know, that conjure things from the sky are conjuration as opposed to evocation. So I think that fits pretty well in Archmage. And if any of you guys disagree with me, please put it in the comments. This could be a fun discussion to have. Okay, so Mountain King. I actually made a homebrew class, subclass for based on the Mountain King because I didn't think any of the existing fighter classes fit with it very well. That was a while ago though, and I think now the Rune Knight fits pretty well because like the runes aspect fits with dwarves very well, and then Giant's Might fits very well with their avatar ability. And, you know, Thunderclap, Stormbolt, obviously those don't fit super well. I think in my homebrew subclass, I gave them the Thunderclap cantrip with like Constitution as their spellcasting modifier or something like that, which could be fun. But all in all, I think that with maybe a feat or two, like maybe the Bludgeoning feat, the Crusher feat, or you know, maybe Magic Initiate with Thunderclap as a cantrip, and then like a Witch Bolt or I don't know. I don't think it would take too much effort to make a Mountain King. There is a very cool Mountain King class in the books though that we'll probably look at later. It's called like the Dwarven Avatar, which I think is really fun. Okay, Blood Mage. They have Flame Strike, Banish, Siphon Mana, and Phoenix. A couple of those are conjuration spells as well, but I've always kind of thought of the Blood Mage as a sorcerer. There used to be a sorcerer class that was the Phoenix, a Phoenix sorcerer class, and it was in Unearthed Arcana for a while, but it didn't go very far, and I think it ended up becoming the Druid of the Wildfire, and Circle of Wildfire. And so my very first D&D character was named Zilmar Dawnheart, and he was in what I tried to make a Warcraft setting using basically these like adapted to 5th edition, which was really kind of dumb for me because it was my first time playing D&D and I was already getting into adaptation instead of just learning the rules. But I really loved Warcraft, and I didn't really like D&D at the time. Now it's kind of flip-flopped where I'm tired of Warcraft's lore and D&D is what I'm more familiar with. Anyway, so I kind of made him as basically a blood mage who was like, Kale was his idol. And so I tried out that Phoenix subclass. There were some problems with it. Wasn't great, but yeah, so like a blood elf sorcerer I think is... I think that would fit mainly, but maybe you could do a Druid of the Wildfire and just sort of skin it as a sorcerer, like never use wild shape, just use the Wildfire to summon like a Phoenix-shaped spirit maybe, something like that. I guess I haven't been talking about race either. These obviously would be humans. The Archmage, I think... Okay, he's a human. I thought he had pointy ears. And it makes sense, he's got a big beard too. So yeah, he's a human. Might even be a mounted combatant feat, I don't know. And then the mountain dwarves, I feel, are closest to Ironforge dwarves. And then the Wildhammer dwarves would be closer to hill dwarves, I think. What are they called? Dark Iron dwarves. They don't really fit with Grey dwarves, Duergar. But, maybe with some tweaking you could make a simpler one. In fact, I think Dark Iron Dwarves are closer to like Tieflings or something. I don't know. Anyway, so I think Blood Elves would probably be High Elves. So yeah, High Elf Sorcerer, I would guess. Or a Wildfire Druid. The Blade Master, at first glance, looks like he's a samurai. But, let's see, Fighting Spirit is the bonus action that gives yourself advantage on weapon attack rolls. My nose itchy. You get temporary hit points, and Elegant Courtier. When you make a persuasion check, you get a bonus. Proficiency in wisdom saving throws. None of this really fits. I think given the fact that the Blade Master has Windwalk and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure he would be a rogue, actually. Windwalk is basically invisibility or just stealth, and like sneak attack. Mirror Image is an actual spell in the game, so that makes me think maybe he's a arcane trickster, I guess. Do they get Mirror Image? I think it's an illusion spell and it's a wizard spell, so that would actually work. Critical Strike is basically sneak attack, and then Blade Storm doesn't really work, as a rogue, but I still would put him as a half-orc. I just say that half-orcs are orcs because they're a more interesting class than the orc race from Bolo's Guide and stuff, so that's what I'm going to say, is that it's a half-orc rogue. I guess Arcane Trickster? There's not really one that fits super well. I mean, I think that would be the closest one just so that he could get Mirror Image, but I don't know. So that's my idea for the build. Garrick, you said Echo Knight. The Mirror Image kind of fits with that a little bit, but not enough, I don't think, because you could make that other Echo. The way Samuro works on Heroes of the Storm works a little bit more like that because his mirror images can actually attack. But I don't know, that focuses a little too much on... Well, you know what? Maybe you're right. Well, no, I don't know. I think that sneaking and sneak attack is more important to his class, and so I would say a rogue fits better. But I don't know. Maybe an Echo Knight rogue multi-class, actually. That could be interesting. I forgot about multi-classing. Maybe that would fit for the Blood Mage too, a Sorcerer Druid sort of thing. Farseer. Shaman is never a very good fit on the current version of D&D 5e. Like, canonically, the Shaman, the so-called Shaman, is probably the Circle of the Shepherd Druid, because they can make totems and stuff. And the Farseer can indeed make, like, you know, Feral Spirit. He can summon, like, spirits and stuff. You know, conjure beasts. Yeah, he would be a druid. I'm not entirely certain if he should be shepherd, though. He might just be druid of the land, because he's very magic-oriented. He's got chain lightning, he's got, you know, farsight, which I guess would be just like clairvoyance or scrying or whatever, which I think druids have. Earthquake is, I think, a druid spell as well. So, I don't know. Knowing about what we know about with, like, shamans on World of Warcraft, I feel like the shaman would be more close to a, like, almost like a cleric or something, because they wear mail armor. I would probably make a shaman, if we're going with the World of Warcraft version of a shaman, I would probably go with a multi-class storm cleric and maybe wildfire druid, just to give that elemental boost and those fire spells and stuff. That's what my guess would be, but let me know what you guys think. So yeah, I'm thinking druid of some kind. Tarn Chieftain would probably just be a straight up battle master, Minotaur battle master. There's some battle maneuvers that are pretty good, that fit that pretty well. I can't really think of any off the top of my head. But, you know, like, none of the, like, evasive footwork, but, like, you know, lunging attack, maybe, menacing attack, kind of the stronger ones. He'd definitely have Great Weapon Master as his feat, and as his fighting style, he would have Great Weapon Fighting. You know, just like a heavy hitter, basically. That's what I would think as for the Tarn Chieftain. With, like, I don't know, do we want to go with backgrounds? You know, noble, sage, outlander, maybe? Kind of the mountaineer aspect. I don't know, soldier, outlander. Blood Mage, he's, Kale's technically a noble, but I don't know. And the Farseer's background would be probably Outlander. A lot of the orcs, I feel like, would be. Tarn Chieftain would probably be an Outlander as well. I guess the Paladins that aren't, like, Arthas is obviously noble background, but Paladin, I guess, might be an Acolyte background, actually, because they kind of start out as priests of the light, and then they go to be Paladins. But I don't know. Blade Master would probably be a soldier background. Alright, and the Shadow Hunter. I hate how it always defaults to that repetitive animation. Okay, Shadow Hunter. Looks like we're looking at another druid, but they focus more on healing. They focus on the wards too, though, and hex and stuff. Yeah, I agree, Corica. I mean, they're just kind of for role-playing reasons, but I don't know. Might be fun to just throw them in there just in case. Yeah, I mean, Shadowhunter he'd have to be a druid, but which one? Maybe like something kind of voodoo-y, like, I guess Dreams is more about like fairies and stuff, so I don't know if that would work. But I guess if you took away the sort of lore aspect, they heal, so that's like Healing Wave. They can total cover blocks the sphere. And then Hidden Paths is teleporting. That doesn't really fit. I think I would go with Circle of the Shepherd for the Shadowhunter because it's all about like totems, you know, and they summon the serpent ward totems and some conjuration with polymorphing with hex or whatever. I'm not really super satisfied with that, but I don't know. What do you guys think? And then Outlander background, obviously, because he's a troll. Alright. Moving on. Death Knight. Oathbreaker Paladin. Hands down. Definitely Oathbreaker Paladin. They've got the necromantic powers, they've got the evil abilities, aura of hate. Like, that's a very worthy change to like the aura of the unholy aura, you know. So yeah, definitely an Oathbreaker Paladin. And then background, I don't know. There's like one of the backgrounds that's like, I mean, not that it really matters, but like there's one of the backgrounds that's like a haunted one or something. Yeah, like a haunted one, meaning you're haunted by something so terrible, blah blah blah. I feel like that would work for all the undead ones, just out of sort of definition. And the race would be returned, obviously, for all the undeads. Archimond? Yeah, why not? We got everybody else. We got everybody else at the party. Why not bring Archimond as well? And Manaroth, because why not? Okay. Oh, and before we move on for the Shadowhunter, it's unfortunate because trolls are very hard to they're very hard to adapt to 5th edition, and I guess what I would probably say is the closest to a troll is lizard folk, which is in Volo's Guide. I'm pretty sure lizard folk are, I guess, the closest you can get to trolls if you don't want to make anything homebrew, because they're bulkier and taller than humans. They have a swimming speed. That seems weird for trolls. They have a bite. No, I mean they've got tusks, but they're not the type that would bite people. This makes sense because they're kind of survivalists. You can take hide and bone from a slain beast, construct during the monstrosity or plant creature. Hold your breath. Hunter's lore fits. Natural armor doesn't fit. Yeah, never mind. Here's how I've done it in the past is I would say instead of bite, I feel like lizard folk are kind of overpowered as it is. They have quite a bit of stuff, so I wouldn't mind taking away bite, hold breath, and hungry jaws. And probably natural armor. And instead, I would say that trolls' racial ability is they can spend a hit die and roll to heal as a bonus action, as opposed to or even just an action, as opposed to having to do it in a short rest, because they have the regeneration skill, and I think that would be the most balanced way to do that. But yeah, those swimming speeds and stuff, those are kind of necessary. I would maybe add one more ability for the trolls, but I don't know, they're kind of hard, so that's kind of the issue with them. But yeah, this would be a returned Oathbreaker Paladin. Lich, returned obviously, and then their abilities are all like frost and stuff. There's not really anything in the game that's cold damage based, which is kind of unfortunate. I thought that with like the Icewind Dale adventure there would be like a Winter Domain cleric or something. Seems like there's like an Ars Arcana about that or something, but if you wanted to do it by the book, I guess maybe just evocation and you just focus on pure cold damage. Or, I mean, druids are the ones that have more access to elemental stuff, so... Oh, Goliaths. Yeah, Goliaths, I guess, would kind of fit as a troll, but... You know what, let's just look at that for real quick, just for the fun of it. I know that they have resistance to cold damage, which doesn't really fit unless they were an ice troll. This would fit perfectly for an ice troll. And then yeah, instead of stone's endurance, you could just say you could spend athletics. I don't know, I feel like survival would fit better with trolls. Yeah, so see, trolls would have to kind of be... What's Tasha's rules for custom lineages again? Or custom roles? Changing a skill, changing your subclass, customizing your origin. Custom lineage. Okay, so if we did custom lineage for trolls, this is what I would do. I would say humanoid, medium, 30 feet. One ability of yours increased by 2. Probably Constitution. That seems to be what trolls would do. And then 1 feet. Instead of 1 feet, I would just give them, they can use a hit die as a action. I know there's a feat that lets you do that. It's that dwarven one that lets you, when you take the dodge action, you use it. So maybe just that ability. And then trolls, would they get dark vision? Probably not. I think they just get proficiency in survival. And then language is common and troll, I guess. So that's how I would make a, by the rules, and that's still kind of iffy, but I guess that's kind of what I would do. Alright, Shadow Sorcerer. Okay, yeah, if we wanted to... Yeah, you know what? I think that you're right. I think I would probably say that the Lich is a Shadow Sorcerer. The Shadow Sorcerer kind of has some... It's not very great, though. They've got some sort of weird abilities that don't really fit very well. Like, they make a Hound of Ill Omen. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. But let's check it out real quick. Shadow Magic. They can see in the dark, which is pretty cool. They... Strength of the Grave, I guess that kind of fits. Maybe they'd just be like a Death Cleric. Because, I mean, they're not... You know what? Maybe they would be a Death Cleric. Well, they don't have any fighting abilities, though. They'd have to be a Sorcerer or Wizard. You know what? What am I thinking? Necromancer. School of Necromancy. Yeah, that's what a Lich would probably be. And then they'd just focus on, like, cold damage spells. So, Return Necromancer. That's what I think my final answer is on that one. Dreadlord. Oh, they're a little bit difficult. The race would be Dampier, which, if I can remember what they do, I wish I'd listed it right here instead of just all lineages under a single one. But yeah, Dampiers. Medium. Speed is fast, I guess that works. Ancestral Legacy, I don't really know anything about that. Oh, proficiency in 2 skills, I mean, athletics and intimidation, I guess. Dark Vision makes sense for a Dreadlord. You don't need to breathe, I guess so. That's not really, doesn't work really well, but I guess so. And Vampiric Bite fits perfectly. Spider Climb, I guess that works as well. It's kind of funny that they have wings, but if I have wings, why am I always walking? So that's kind of funny. I don't even know about the Crypt Lord. Let's set him aside for now. Priestess of the Moon. Okay, she would be a ranger, but I think she would also be a nature cleric because she's a priestess of the moon. And so I think, let's see. Okay, Beastmaster, right? Like, her tiger is kind of a big part of her. Especially since her icon is the actual panther. It's not even her face. So yeah, Beastmaster. And then I think a nature cleric would fit her because she could, not necessarily the Warcraft 3 version, but in Heroes of the Storm, Toronto's got like healing spells and stuff. I think that would be a good combination for like a ranged fighter / healer sort of thing. And Night Elves would be Wood Elves because their hiding ability fits pretty well. Wardens, they're a little tricky. I feel like they would maybe be an Echo Knight. because they've got that like sort of, what's it called, vengeance. They've got that vengeance ability, which, I mean, look at that. Like, I think Warden's honestly would probably be an Echo Knight. Either that or, I don't know, what do you guys think? Monk, maybe? Maybe a Kensei Monk? Oh, I forgot about monks. You know what? I think the Blade Master would actually be a Kensei Monk. I think either a Kensei Monk and a Rogue combo. I forgot about monks. I don't know why I didn't think of that before, but that would fit perfectly for Blade Master. But for Warden, yeah, I'm thinking Echo Knight. I think that would work pretty well. Alright, let's kind of go a little bit faster through this. So let's go with, okay, so Keeper of the Grove, definitely a Druid of the Land, I think. You know, with just a focus on grassland or forest or something like that. Just kind of the magic skills, that sort of thing. Background, probably Outlander for all the Night Elves, I would guess. Although what's a background for a judge? I don't know. I guess Soldier. Furion would be a little different. I don't think he would be a pure Druid of the Land like a normal Keeper of the Grove. I think he would be a Druid of the Land, a Druid of Dreams, because of his sleeping and everything, his Druid sleep, and the Emerald Dream. And then he would multi-class as a Paladin of the Ancients, because it's about, see, Nature's Wrath, Turn the Faithless, you know, he's always against, like, fiends and stuff, so I think that would work pretty well. And Snaring Strike, come on, that's exactly the same, like, as, you know, Tangling Roots. Moonbeam, it's got a Moonfire aspect to it, sort of thing. Plant Growth, these all just fit perfectly. Tree Stride, that sort of thing. And just the healing aspect of it, I think, would fit perfectly. So he would actually be a very interesting build, I think. A Druid / Paladin, I think, would be really interesting. The trick would be, you know, balancing your skills, because Charisma would be your Paladin casting ability and Wisdom would be your Druid, but yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then Admiral Proudmoore would probably just be I mean, if we wanted to make him a gunslinger, I would not use Matthew Mercer's gunslinger class. It is awful. It is terribly, terribly balanced. There's a lot of stuff in it that's completely redundant. Like look at this. Bullying Shot. You can use the blah 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 to shake the resolve of a creature. You can expend 1 grit point and make an intimidation check to gain advantage. Make an intimidation check against what? Like contested, a DC, and then there's a Deadeye Shot, and you can expend 1 grit point to gain advantage without making an intimidation check. See what I mean? It's just terrible. But there is a renegade subclass that was released very briefly and then taken down, which is weird to me. I guess maybe they overstepped some sort of copyright thing or whatever. I don't know what happened. But it was a Runeterra thing. It was like a League of Legends crossover thing that apparently wasn't sanctioned. I don't know what happened. But basically they have a class that, in my opinion, is a much better gunslinger. It's called a Renegade. Blah, 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 lore, blah, 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 lore. I don't care about lore. Oh, I think I passed it. Oh yeah, here we go. Renegade. See, I think this would work better. You start out with like a gun, and you get persuasion, or you get deception, persuasion, or sleight of hand. Maybe persuasion would be Admiral Proudmoore's. Gunfighter form. You can either have a pistol or a sniper rifle. You know, two-handed or one-handed. This is speed. This is power. and then you get these like cool upgrades that you can get for them. And your damage ignores resistance, which is cool. And then when you use your second wind, your AC gains a bonus and your movement speed increases. Very cool. And then at 15th level, when you finish a long rest, you can move your upgrades around, which is cool. And then light them up is, as a bonus action, you can throw an explosive, which is kind of cool too. And then the upgrades are all very balanced in my opinion, and they're all very fun too. You can shoot a net, you can make it explode, you can have a double barrel, which means you can shoot twice with your sniper rifle. It's funny that the shots can target the same creature or different creatures, though I'm not sure how a barrel would work like that, but oh well. Smoke screen, then you got barrage. Anyway, this is a really fun subclass that I've always wanted to try, and in my opinion, much better than Matt Mercer's Gunslinger. Demon Hunters are the weirdest of all. They're such a cool class in World of Warcraft and in Warcraft 3 and just in general, but if you think about it, they're kind of a mixture between a warlock, a ranger, a paladin, and a rogue. Like, they have all of these different just sort of weird things that fit together in different ways. I mean, they've got this sort of oath kind of thing. They've got this ranger-ish thing about hunting down demons, but they also have this, they also take on the powers of demons, and, this would be you'd have to kind of I don't know if a demon hunter would work, unless it's just a conglomeration of multi-classes, in which case I don't know if that would even work well. So I'd have to think really hard about that. That's a hard one. Goblin, oh yeah, and sailor background for Admiral Promar. Alright, the Goblin Alchemist. Goblins, I feel like, fit best under the rock gnome race, because it's about tinkering and stuff, and they just sort of do that by their nature. But instead of intelligence, I would give them charisma for their haggling skills and stuff. So anyway, that's what I would think is. So he would be a rock gnome artificer alchemist. He's got the healing potions, all of that stuff. Just makes sense. And while we're at it, the Goblin Tinker would be a goblin, or a rock gnome, artillerist, maybe? What are the artificer, maybe armorer? What does the battlesmith do? They make turrets, don't they? No, they make a little metal, okay, artillerist. I was right the first time. They would be an artillerist. Rock gnome artillerist. Sea witch. Okay, that would definitely be a lizard folk. I guess that would be the best way to make Naga at a glance. And then I think she would be a ranger, I guess? Not really sure what kind, though. I haven't looked at rangers for a while because I never played them. Maybe a Gloomstalker, although it would be... That could be interesting. A Gloomstalker in the case of, like, hunting underwater or something. That could be really interesting. Some of these are so forgettable. Monster Slayer, what does that even do? I can't even remember what that does. It's boring. So yeah, maybe a Gloomstalker. I don't know. Or maybe like an Arcane Archer, if you wanted to focus on her arrows being kind of unique, or her abilities. Lightning, I wouldn't make her a Druid though. Let's say Arcane Archer, I'd say, or maybe a Gloomstalker. That could be really interesting to, like, be able to see underwater and stuff like that. Archmond, probably a Warlock of the Fiend, plain and simple. He's got some really, like, Warlocks of the Fiend have some really cool abilities later on. Especially their highest level one is Hurl Through Hell. When you hit a creature with an attack, you can instantly transport them through the lower planes. That sounds like something Archmond would do. I don't know what his pact would be, though. I guess Pact of the Tome, maybe, because he's kind of all about the magic and everything. You could flavor the tome as being the Book of Medivh or something. That could be interesting. Anyway, so Warlock of the Fiend. Sylvanas. Ranger. Hunter. Plain and simple. I don't think that there's anything about that. Background soldier. Race. High elf. Oh, and Archimonde's background. Who cares? I don't know. Charlatan. I don't know. He would be a boss, so obviously you probably wouldn't play as Archimond. But if you did, that's I guess criminal or charlatan. I don't know. Jaina. I feel like if we're going by our Heroes of the Storm, she'd maybe be an evocation wizard. She has a lot of ice spells. She'd maybe have elemental adept feat to do cold damage or something. But if we're going by Warcraft 3, then she'd probably just be a conjuration wizard like the other one. Human. Dark Knights. Devotion, Aura, Shockwave, Holy Light, and Avatar. Okay, I think he would probably be... Okay, I know what he would be. He would be a Paladin of Conquest. That just fits. Armor of Agathis, Command. Spiritual Weapon, Fear, that fits. Dominate Beast, Stone Skin. That could kind of stand in for his avatar ability. Dominate Person. Yeah, those all fit Garithos really well. He'd have a background of a soldier, and then be a human Conquest Paladin, I'd say. I mean, a Vengeance Paladin specifically is... They're called Dark Knights or Black Knights or whatever, but in the case of this, he's all about conquest. He just wants to kill all non-humans, basically. Okay, Beastmaster would be a Beastmaster Druid, because obviously he depends on Misha, right? But I think also maybe he could be a little... I don't know, he feels more like a, I don't know. I feel like he has some fighting abilities too, but I guess he's all about the beasts, so. I mean, he just summons the beasts. It's all about that. So yeah, he'd be a Beastmaster, and his spells would focus on, like, Summon Beast, all the spells that buff up beasts, that sort of thing. And his race would probably be Goliath. That's what I would think is the closest to a half-ogre. Pandaren Brewmaster. Monk, obviously. But what type, I wonder? Let's see what they have. Probably Way of the Four Elements, wouldn't you say? Because, Storm, Earth, and Fire. There's probably one that's Storm, right? No? Okay, well... I'm sure you could fit something like that, but, Storm, Earth, Earth and Fire. So yeah, he'd probably be a Four Elements monk. As for his race, I don't even really know or care what Pandaren would be, honestly. I mean, I guess Furbolgs, because they're kind of have that whimsical feel to them, I guess. I don't know. I mean, you could maybe just reflavor a monster race, but I don't really know what. Oh, yeah, that's a good point, Garrick. Hi, JG Fate. Yeah, that's a good point. Drunken Master Monk. That's a good point. I forgot about them. But yeah, I don't know. I hate when they fall between two subclasses, because if they fell between two classes, you can multi-class. But yeah, I think it would be closer to the Four Elements. Maybe. Tipsy Sway, Leap to Your Feet. You know what, no, maybe Drunken actually would be closer to what they are, because, if you think of, like, the Pandaren Brewmaster on the Pandaria cuts, cinematic trailer, he's definitely kind of moves around like that. Lucky bounce. Flurry blows. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think Drunken Master. He's just kind of made for that, huh? Can't get him around that. Anyway, as for the race, I mean, I almost think maybe Orc, like powerful build, aggressive, maybe could be something. I don't know what else it would be. Nothing else would really fit that well, I don't think. Yeah, I think I would have to either say a Orc, like reflavored, or a Furbolg, which has Wisdom and Strength, which fits them really well. Hidden Step, powerful build. Okay, yeah, no, I think Furbolg's fit as Pandaren the best. Detect Magic and Disguise Self, those are kind of weird. Maybe I would switch that out for something. Turn Invisible. You can speak with beasts and plants. That seems like something they would do, huh? I don't know. I don't care that much to go over it too bad, but... Alright, Dark Ranger, that would be our Gloomstalker. Can't argue with that. And so if we're going to do a Gloomstalker here, I mean, it would either be that or like some kind of... I mean, I'm thinking Ranger, obviously, but maybe it wouldn't be that. You know what? Maybe a Dark Ranger would actually be a Arcane Archer. Returned race, obviously. I don't know. I never really noticed before, but it's hard to tell what's the difference between a Naga and a Dark Ranger. It's hard to say. I don't know. You decide. Firelord. Firelords are just weird. I don't even know why they're in the game. I mean, they never show up again except as like Ragnaros, So I don't know why you would want to play as one of these. I guess a Fire Genasi with Wildfire Druid again. Yeah, it'd have to just be a Wildfire Druid, Fire Genasi. Kind of weird and not very creative, but I don't know what else to tell you. I have no idea what the background would be for that. Yeah, I don't know why I put Grom on here. Although I feel like he's less of a Kensei monk than other Blade Masters. In fact, Blade Master doesn't even really fit him at all, Like, if you think of him on Warcraft 2, he's more of a berserker. So yeah, now that I think about it, it actually... I think Grom wouldn't be... Grom doesn't fit his Warcraft 3 statistics. I think he would just be like a barbarian berserker, half-orc. I'm not sure about his background. I mean, he wasn't a chieftain, was he? Was he? Yeah, he was a chieftain, I think, of the Warsong clan, but I don't really know. So I guess noble? I don't know. Probably Outlander or something. Anyway, yeah, he'd probably be closer to a berserker barbarian. Pit Lords just don't work. They're just not characters. They're creatures, they're enemies. This just would not work. I mean, you'd have to really contrive this to make it work. It'd have to be like a barbarian, like a zealot barbarian maybe with, great weapon master. The race would probably be centaur just to like, get the build right. But even then, I mean, they're like, those are large, like straight up large. They're not, and Manoroth's huge. They're large, they're not medium. And so, yeah, that is too weird. Oh, I just realized something. Yuan-Ti Pureblood might work as a Naga as well. because of the poison immunity and stuff. No, I take it back. They're lizard folk because the swimming is all I don't know what these are all about. Anyway, what was I saying? Pit Lords, Centaurs. Let's just look at them for kicks and giggles. Or like a Loxodon. No. Alright. Centaur, let's just for the heck of it. 40 feet, they do book it when they run. They're not Fey though. Their creature type would be Fiend, obviously. Oh, good point. Silver Onions, yeah. Soldier. That fits what Grom is more than him being like a leader or anything. So yeah, Soldier for sure. Charge, that makes sense. He does have hooves. Count as one size larger. And then I guess he would pick survival because none of those fit with. I mean, I would just homebrew that and replace it with intimidation instead. And then he could write common and like abyssal or infernal. I'm not sure which one fits the demons of Azeroth better. Probably abyssal. Yeah. But that actually fits pretty well. Strength increases by 2. I don't know about wisdom. Probably constitution instead. Or charisma. They're kind of the leaders of the armies as well. So yeah, Centaur, Barbarian, Warlock, I guess. I don't know. What are their abilities again? Or a Battle Master? He'd have to have some kind of Warlock abilities because I feel like he needs some of those. Again, though, it just doesn't really work. Like these would have to be just a enemy or whatever. As for the Crypt Lord, I guess some levels of Necromancer, maybe Death Cleric, because Death Clerics at least have the ability to fight. I don't know about Spiked Carapace and like all these abilities and stuff. Like, it's hard to say. I don't know, and I have no idea what his race would be. There aren't any bug insectoid races in the game currently, and even if there were, I don't know if they would fit with a gigantic beetle. So he might have to be like a centaur as well, just because of his shape and everything. But yeah. Okay, so anyway, that's the Heroes of Warcraft 3, just for the fun of it. Let's take a look in the our in the Warcraft 3 role-playing game. Well, it's not Warcraft 3, but it takes place right after Warcraft 3. And let's just kind of take a look at it. So there's some interesting things about the Warcraft role-playing game. It talks about kind of what the setting is, and the setting is right after the Third War, which is kind of interesting. So it basically talks about right after the events of Warcraft 3 and the Frozen Throne, kind of what happened, like the aftermath. And as a timeline of events, talks about, let's see. So this is kind of the setting. The majority of Alliance forces remained in the new land of Kalimdor. In the year after the Third War ended, they established a stronghold on the island of Theramore. Though Jaina Proudmoore held the Orcs in high regard in the wake of the recent war, the truce established between the Alliance and the Horde soon suffered strain when her father arrived. Oh yeah, that's the story of founding Durotar. So blah blah blah. The High Elves on Kalimdor faced problems of their own. Their proud home of Quel'Thalas was razed in the war, and very few came with Jaina Proudmoore's army to settle in Theramore. And they just sort of, it says that the High Elves basically spend much of their time venturing into Kalimdor, hunting down the remaining undead and demons who destroyed their home, I guess. And they look for new sources of arcane magic to replace what they lost with the destruction of the Sunwell of Quel'Thalas. Iron-forged dwarves were stranded upon Kalimdor like the rest of the Alliance forces. To their surprise, they discovered tantalizing information about a progenitor race they called the Titans, ancient beings who may have created dwarves. Fueled by curiosity, the inquisitive dwarves have left but a token force in Theramore, while the rest of their kind roam Kalimdor in search of their mysterious origins. I really like that idea. And I know I'm pretty sure that's been completely explained away in World of Warcraft, just like everything else. But I really like the idea of it being more of a mystery, you know? Of it being, like, not quite established yet. Many have resettled on Baal Modan, which means Red Mountain, a site of some Titan ruins, which is always really kind of a cool adventure hook. The Night Elves still have their homeland and much of their population. This was before Sylvanas killed everybody. They lost much of their solitude, however, and must deal with the lingering effects of the Legion's corruption. Furthermore, they sacrificed much of their spiritual energy to empower Nordrassil in the Battle of Mount Hyjal, resulting in a loss of their immortality. Once protected and alone, they now must deal with numerous races and peoples, including an offshoot of the race that hungers still for arcane power. And then the Orcs, led by War Chief Thrall, have found a new homeland on the continent of Kalimdor, and Spirit Brothers in the race of Tauren, who lent their aid in the climactic battle. The once unstoppable juggernaut of the Horde became a loose coalition of orcs, Tauren, and others dedicated to survival and prosperity rather than conquest. Their peace was short-lived, regrettably, when new Alliance forces arrived from Lordaeron some months later. The fleet was under the command of Grand Admiral Dalen, blah, 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 blah. Alright, so that's the setting. Should you ever choose to do, whatever happened right after Warcraft 3 before anything was settled too much. Which was kind of interesting. But I'm basically here to tell you that a Warcraft setting has never been easier than it is with 5th edition. Like, this has, the different races for, which, I really like these drawings, by the way. It's Metzin's, I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah, I love Metzin. He's always been one of my, he's probably been my favorite artist ever since I was a kid. Anyway, 5th edition seems like it was designed to facilitate Warcraft, and I'll show you why. So, let's just kind of go through the races real quick. If you did ever want to play Warcraft on D&D 5th edition, then, and we've already looked at a few of these on the Warcraft 3, but listen to how perfectly these fit. Alright, Ironforged Dwarves. Those are basically mountain dwarves. They've got the Constitution, Dark Vision. They have a couple of things that are kind of interesting, like stability. Like they're stable on their feet, and so they're like essentially advantage on checks made to avoid being knocked prone, which is kind of interesting. I mean, you could add that if you want. And then they have Stone Flesh. Once per day they can gain an armor bonus for like 1 minute or something, because they kind of turn to stone for a second, as in terms of drawing on their Titanic heritage or something like that. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all those abilities. Like I said, 3rd edition was way too complicated, I'd say, and we're just kind of focusing on how you can do this in 5th edition. So, if you wanted to be a Ironforged Dwarf, Mountain Dwarf. If you wanted to be a Wildhammer Dwarf, Hill Dwarf, I think, because the Wisdom aspect fits with their Druidic nature. The hit points addition thing is a little boring, but I think it fits pretty well. High Elves. High Elves and Blood Elves, I think, fit well with the High Elf aspect. Blood Elves, it's interesting because in this book, well, Blood Elves aren't found until, I believe, the Alliance Compendium, maybe? Well, let's go through the ones in here first, and I'll look at that. It's kind of interesting. Okay, Night Elf. They fit Wood Elves perfectly, and I'll show you why. Dark Vision, Ultra Vision, Keen Senses, that fits really well. Fey Ancestry, I mean, you could probably take that off because Night Elves do sleep. They don't have the trance. I mean, I guess you could just say that they sort of have advantage on saving throws against being charmed thanks to their, you know, connection to the Moonwell or something. Moonwells, I don't know. But anyway, the ability... Fleet of Foot, they walk more quickly. That seems to fit with the Night Elves. And then Mask of the Wild, that is a perfect replacement for Shadow Meld. Technically, if you did do Shadow Meld, it would be closer to something like if you're in dim light or darkness, you can use your action to turn invisible until you move or take any action. You know, like I think that wouldn't be too overpowered because you couldn't really do anything and you'd have to like not move sort of thing, but this is a worthy substitute if you want to stay vanilla. So Night Elves, Wood Elves, very close. Goblins, like I said before, I think that they fit best with rock gnomes because of their tinker abilities, and I would just change their racial trait. So yeah, Artificer's Lore, that totally fits gnomes or goblins. They all usually get intelligence +2. I would just say that gnomes get intelligence +2 and goblins get charisma +2. That just seems to fit them better. And then there is, here's some more pictures that are really good. Guess I should have done full screen with that, but you know what, I will. Because it's just really, really well done. Good old Metzen. So, so here's some more of these. Half Orc and then Orc. You can make those work pretty well either way. They're a lot more complicated in the book. Like Orcs basically get like a Barbarian Rage, but like as a racial ability, which is kind of weird. Tauren are interesting because they were deemed so powerful that basically you had to take a level penalty. Like you had to, if you were starting the game at level 2, basically you would start as a level 1 Tauren because you were just naturally so powerful. And that's an interesting concept, like to give races almost like their own sort of class level that starts them out with some really like basically extra good racial abilities, but it costs a level to start out like that. And so Tauren are kind of interesting like that. Blood Elves also do that, but it's because they're so powerful magically, which is kind of interesting. There's also Half Elves, which are not really found in Warcraft. There's precious few Half Elves in existence, if any. I can't really think of any. But I mean, if you could say you're half High Elf. There's probably no such thing as half Night Elves, at least not at this point in the story, since this is only like a year after Warcraft 3, but you could do it at any other point in Warcraft history, I guess. And then half Orcs don't exist either. And I wonder, what are their abilities? Orc Blood. They're brave. They have a bonus against fear-related spells. And then they're proficient in intimidation and insight, which is interesting. I would almost say that these half-elves, half-orcs in the Warcraft setting are more like half-elves because they just sort of have a different feel. Like they're more... Like in D&D, you think of half-orcs as like these, really powerful, like raging, a raging race that's basically orcs. If you look at half-orcs on D&D, look at that. That doesn't look half human. That just looks like pretty much a full orc. Yeah, sure, that's what orcs look like, but I don't know. They're already just, +2 strength, +1 constitution, menacing, relentless endurance, savage attacks. They just basically feel like orcs. More than orcs do in some ways. And so in this case, they're saying that like the orcs of Azeroth that are half humans are like more like weak, I guess. And so let's look at half elves. I know they're super versatile, so it might be closer to what half orcs would be. Your charisma score increases by 2. No, it would be your constitution goes up instead of charisma. And then size, speed, whatever, dark vision, they would have, I guess, dark vision. I'm not really sure why orcs have dark vision. Oh wait, maybe they don't. Low light vision. Okay, I don't really know what that means, so whatever. We can just kind of keep that. And then instead of Fey Ancestry... Oh, okay, look at this. You have advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put you to sleep. Let's change that to you have advantage on saving throws against being frightened, because that's pretty much the exact same power level as charming, frightening, the frightened condition. And so, yeah, that would fit for a half-orc. You have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. And then you gain proficiency in intimidation and I guess insight, because they're sort of... It says, half-orcs are as intimidating as their orc parents and have learned to look beyond surface appearances in order to survive. So that's kind of cool. I'll accept that. And then you can speak, read, and write Common, Orcish, and one extra language of your choice. So that is really surprising, actually. I never would have realized that kind of fits with Azeroth's lore. Like, half-elves would be, somewhat weaker. I mean, geez. Half-orcs would be somewhat weaker than orcs, as opposed to being basically equal with them, like on D&D. So, yeah, very cool. So Tauren are... Yeah, see, they get +4 strength, +2 constitution. And yeah, they get -2 dexterity, but D&D Beyond... D&D 5th edition frowns on taking away stats. So... And they're large. Like, they're large creatures, and that just would not work. You can't... in terms of balancing, large creatures just do not work in 5th edition. Large character players. Because that just messes up with a lot of balance issues. Like your aura extends another 5 feet in every direction. You can't squeeze into medium... Yeah, you have to squeeze into medium tunnels and stuff like that. It just doesn't work. I mean, that's why centaurs, even though they're like 7 feet tall, are still medium creatures, because you can only be medium and small. So I mean, obviously the easiest way to do this would just be to make them minotaurs. The balancing is already done. Let's take a look though, just in case. Because, this is obviously not a Tauren. Like, Taurens are not crazy monsters. They're like, they're big and intimidating, but they're also sort of natural and stuff. Nature worshipping. So, strength and constitution, of course. I guess medium. Horns, yes. Goring rush, sure. Hammering horns. Jeez, they have 3 horn abilities? Immediately after you hit a creature with melee attack, you can use a bonus action to shove it with your horns. Yeah, that's good. You have proficiency in intimidation or persuasion. Instead of that, I would say they have proficiency in either nature or survival. That would fit Taurens better. And I mean, I would give them probably the large build ability, which is, lets them carry more because they're just so big. So that's what I would guess. Also, another thing about this role-playing game is it's very faction-focused. Like, you choose to be either the Alliance or the Horde. And it's interesting because the Horde, rather than speaking Common I guess it does say they speak Common. Well, I was going to say, I thought that they said that, like, basically they could speak Orcish and Minotaur in that case, which is kind of interesting. So, thanks for stopping by, Dennis. Have a good day. Yeah, orcs speak common and orc. Never mind. I guess I misunderstood that. So, never mind about that. So this, classes of Warcraft. So this has got some interesting differences from D&D. Divine spellcasters in the Warcraft RPG gain their divine powers and spells by adhering to detailed philosophies or by petitioning nature spirits rather than through worship of actual deities. That's really interesting. I never thought about it, but there are like no deities in Warcraft, which is very interesting, except for Elune, like the goddess, for the goddess. None of the other, there's really no other higher powers that are worshipped at all. I mean, the light, but the light isn't really a deity per se. It's kind of a philosophy. So that's one thing that's very interesting, like if you were a cleric, well, you'll see kind of how clerics work in a second. Let's see here. Okay, so barbarians are the same. It says they typically come from Orc and Tauren tribes, although some humans and half-orcs may have adopted a barbaric lifestyle on Kalimdor. That's another thing that's kind of interesting, is the, limiting classes to races, I think, is an interesting thing, and I think it's a good thing, honestly. Like, when I first started playing D&D, I thought it was interesting that humans could be druids and stuff like that, because the only role-playing game I had really had access to before that was World of Warcraft, and it was you can be a druid only if you're a Tauren or a Night Elf, that sort of thing. But I think, to an extent, that makes the game a little more interesting, Sure, you can make it, you can kind of flip it on its head and say, it's interesting if, it's more interesting if you can be whatever you want and stand out in your culture and be something different from everyone else around you or something like that, which I guess is true, but I don't know. I think it's kind of cool to say, only orcs and taurens can be barbarians or something like that, kind of interesting. Fighters are very common in the violent world of Azeroth. Makes sense. So they found among all the races. Rogues can be found among all races. I would argue that Taurens probably wouldn't be able to be rogues. That doesn't make any sense. Sorcerers own great talent for arcane spellcasting, but they've not harnessed it through the intensive training that wizards pursue, blah, blah, blah. Basically, that's kind of the same thing. It says Night Elves bear a particular dislike for sorcerers, seeing them as vessels of demonic power. Wizards, at least, attempt to manipulate arcane power through controlled processes rather than letting their own bodies act as conduits. Here's how I would change. This is how I would distinguish it. I would take warlocks out of the game, and I would just say sorcerers are warlocks. That just fits more closely to how Warcraft works. Maybe you could do a little bit of tweaking and have sorcerers have access to the warlock spell list, but only be able to cast warlock only spells up to 5th level or something. That's not. I don't think that's super. I don't think that's a terrible change. But I don't know. That just kind of seems like the way it would work. And I would make the sorcerers use spell points. That just seems like it would work better, so I don't know. And then, wizards, Dalaran, the Academies of Silvermoon and Quathalos, blah, blah, blah. Interestingly enough, it says, any race can be a wizard. However, a night elf who takes this class is stripped of her racial heritage and effectively transforms into a high elf. Kind of interesting, huh? And that says orcs and Tauren are unlikely to take this class since they lack wizards available to train anyone and have a bias against arcane spellcasting to begin with. So that's kind of interesting. And then, instead of clerics, they changed to a new core class called Healer, and it's basically a cleric. Like, I mean, you would basically just use a cleric in 5th edition, but the difference is they get proficiency with like healer's kits and alchemist or herbalism kits, which I guess kind of makes sense. And then if you're a good healer, you get, you know, cure wounds. If you're a bad healer, you get, or evil healer, you get inflict wounds. Neutral, I guess you get either one of your choice. In other words, a healer is basically just like a life cleric or a nature cleric or a death cleric. If I were to adapt this to 5th edition, I would just say you're a cleric, but you can't wear armor. Like, you don't have any proficiency as an armor. Instead, I would give them the monk ability. You know, the monk ability of like unarmored defense. That's what I would do to make this feel a little bit more like Warcraft. Because when I first started playing this game, I thought it was so weird that clerics were so much like paladins. Like, they basically could just, you know, they wore armor and worshipped a god and went into battle and stuff. They're very similar. So if you wanted to make them different, I would do unarmored defense. While you were wearing no armor and not wearing a shield, your AC equals 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your wisdom modifier. I think that would make so much more sense for clerics in a Warcraft setting, you know? And so, you know, whether you call yourself a priest or a healer, I think that just fits that way. And I would allow the death domain if you were like an evil healer, which is kind of an oxymoron, evil healer. Life would probably be obviously available, and then nature for like night elf healers, tauren healers, that sort of thing. And then it's got lists of all the spell lists, and most of them are just cleric spells, but there are a few druid spells in there as well, which is a little interesting. But the vast majority of them are just cleric spells, so I mean, that's the only real difference in this. Instead of rangers, they have what's called scouts, and they're basically rangers. I don't really see any difference. They've got all the same abilities as rangers. I think I did a side-by-side comparison back when I had the 3rd edition thing, but I didn't see any differences. I mean, there's like a few interesting things, like you get immunity to poison at 9th level. That's about it. The interesting new class they added was a Tinker, and I feel like the Artificer class fits well to replace this. It didn't used to. I remember it went through a few revisions in Unearthed Arcana, and I was a little bit disappointed with it for a while, but the current version of Artificers I think works just great. I would just flavor it a lot more similar to being less magic and more technological. In fact, I still think that it would be cool to have a Tinker class where your spells like don't require concentration, but they have a chance of like malfunctioning or something, which I think would be really fun. Like whenever you roll a 1 related to any of your spells, you have to roll on like a malfunction table, which I think would be really fun. But yeah, you don't have to, and maybe if you were concentrating, quote unquote, on separate spells at the same time, then your malfunction range was much higher, that could be kind of fun too. So, kind of a risky class. But in the Warcraft version, the Tinkers have, they've got some weird stuff. They've got bomb bouncing, so they, like when they're throwing bombs, you can throw them at double range because you throw a spin on it. And then there's like evasion because the Tinker's used to jumping out of the way when their invention explodes, and then they get fire resistance because they work with steam, which is weird. Anyway, it's really weird. So, But I think that the artificers in the existing 5th edition work pretty well. I would say that the armorer, artillerist, and battlesmith work the best. Alchemist is a little different. I guess there's the Goblin Alchemist on Warcraft 3. So anyway, yeah, Artificer replaces the Tinker pretty well. But for a while, I wasn't sure what did because Artificer just came out like 2 years ago or something. So anyway, all right, they're prestige classes which don't exist in 5th edition. I think I heard that they, in a couple of Unearthed Arcanas, they've tried, but it just hasn't worked very well. Luckily, prestige classes, all they really are is campaign-specific subclasses. So you could limit these, certain subclasses to certain races, or you could require you could say, for example, you could say I guess I'll come to an example and then I'll tell you kind of how it works. But so there's a Beastmaster prestige class, and they're kind of interesting because they're sort of like the Beastmaster Ranger, but they also kind of start becoming an animal themselves, which is interesting. Like you get claws or tusks or fangs or horns or antlers, which is interesting. So you get some unarmed strikes. You can speak with animals. And then, yeah, so kind of interesting. But yeah, it's basically a Beastmaster with maybe a combination of the Path of the Beast Barbarian, which is fairly new, which is pretty good. They made a new class for druids called Druid of the Wild that basically they just tweaked things to fit druids in World of Warcraft a little bit better. And it's honestly not that big of a change. There's Green Sleep where you can sleep in the Emerald Dream and you basically hibernate, and I'm not sure why. They don't really explain what it does. And I think they limit your wild shapes. You can turn into a Stormcrow, a Stag, a Night Saber Panther, a Dire Bear, or a Treant. Which is kind of interesting. So, I do like the idea of being able to transform into a Treant. I feel like that could be a really interesting Warcraft-themed druid ability. And in terms of balance, let's check out how that would work. This is how I would look. I'd go to Circle of the Moon. About wild shape. Okay, into a challenge rating, into a beast with a challenge rating as high as your druid level divided by 3, rounded down. So maybe it wouldn't work because I'm pretty sure a Treant is CR 10, I think. Let's check. Okay, it's challenge 9, so this wouldn't work at any point, I don't think. Even elemental wild shape, you can expend 2 uses of wild shape to transform into an air elemental, well, basically any type of elemental. Those are only challenge rating 5, unfortunately. So either you could either make that your 14th level ability. Instead of cast Alter Self spell at will, you could expend 2 uses of wild shape to transform into a Treant, and maybe after that you couldn't wild shape for the rest of the day, because normally it recharges with a short rest, but maybe that could be the limit. I don't know if it would be that good. Maybe it would just fit with being 14th level. Maybe you could just do that anyway. I don't know. But that could be pretty fun. Or, let's check to see if there are any... Let's see if there are any plants, any powered down treants. I know there's a treant sapling, but that might be too low. Wow, there are a lot of low CR plants, but I'm not sure if we'll find what we're looking for with higher ones. Okay, an awakened tree is only 2. Alright, so yeah, I would allow you to transform into an awakened tree. Challenge 2, so divide by 3 rounded down. So you'd have to be 6th level to transform into an awakened tree. I think that's fine. I would allow that as DM. A tree and sapling is also 2. Oh wow, that's way better than an awakened tree, right? It has a slam that's 3d6 plus 4 damage. This has multi-attack, and the slam is only 1d10 bludgeoning damage. They also have a rock attack, and animate trees. Yeah, I would say, okay, yeah, obviously tree and sapling's better. 45, well, this has more hit points. It's faster. Large, huge. Okay, yeah, I would say tree and sapling. You can transform into tree and sapling. So I think that actually kind of fits better, maybe. That's a good point, Garrick or Jarek. False appearance. So you could, hide yourself as a tree. You could wild shape into a tree, and then your friends could lead you there, or lead an enemy to you, and then you could attack with surprise. That could be pretty funny. Anyway, so that's fun. I like that flavoring, which is something different. Everything else fits druids pretty much the same, except at 10th level they can enter the Emerald Dream as opposed to just hibernating. And so that's basically like the plane shift spell. But, I don't really know how that would work. I guess it says Chapter 5, The Universe Beyond, for specifics on the Emerald Dream. I haven't read that for a while. Could look at it real quick, though, see if there's anything interesting about the Emerald Dream. Has anybody played World of Warcraft to where you've gone to the Emerald Dream yet? Probably, right? At least as part of a quest. I know there's something about the Emerald Nightmare or something. I haven't played WoW for a while. Shadowlands kind of ruined everything. It was already pretty ruined before that, though. Alright, the Emerald Dream is the primal heart of Azeroth. It is a wild plain of mighty trees and powerful animals, a memory of what the world would have been like if the humans and elves and other intelligence races had never existed, which is super cool. It's a wondrous place, but it is also savage and deadly. I mean, the Emerald Dream is essentially the Feywild. Yeah. That's kind of cool. It's almost like the astral plane in D&D because it's the realm of dreams, and so you can go there while you're dreaming. So it's almost like, not plane shift, but astral projection. You could almost have like a, emerald projection spell or something like that. Oh, thanks for joining, Garrick. Yeah, it is pretty early. Yeah, you can watch the stream later. I may also make a highlights version or something, because I know I'm rambling a lot. So, anyway, thanks for joining. Thanks for your comments. Yeah, it's like the astral plane, because it says dream journeys. Let's see. Any spell that involves the use of dreams to gain information or move between worlds contacts the Emerald Dream instead of the Twisting Nether. Twisting Nether basically being the lower planes. Dream journeys have advantages and disadvantages. They are relatively safe, and creatures that visit the primal plane in dreams will likely be welcomed or at worst ignored. Bringing any physical item back from a dream journey is impossible. The creature arrives in the Emerald Dream with dream versions of its usual clothing and gear, but returns empty-handed to the material plane. It is possible, albeit unlikely, to die from the events of a dream journey. If a creature gets killed in the Emerald Dream, make a DC 10 Constitution save to avoid death in the physical world. That's kind of interesting. And then if you use the gate spell, you can actually physically visit the Emerald Dream, but you can die in it or something like that. Okay, now we're getting to some race-specific prestige classes, which is kind of interesting. So, Elven Ranger, This is obviously based on the Elven Ranger from Warcraft 2. And, you know, the equivalent of this on 5th edition is like the Arcane Archer, which is traditionally elves only, but, you know, it can be other things. It's not very interesting, though. Keen arrows, that's kind of cool. The keen arrow's threat range is doubled for critical strikes. It basically just seems like a ranger that gains the champion's ability to have a higher crit range. Yeah, advantage on initiative checks. Arrow cleave. An Elven Ranger deals creature enough damage with an arrow or bolt to drop it to below 0 hit points. Receives a second attack with that projectile against another creature directly in the path of the arrow. That's kind of cool. I would probably allow that anyway, though, you know. And they get spells that are basically druid or ranger spells or something, so not very interesting. Gladiator. So Gladiator or Blade Master in the Horde has a Horde name. Oh, they're called Gladiators in the Alliance and Blade Masters in the Horde. So that's kind of cool. A class that has a specific name in the faction. That's kind of cool. They're proficient with all weapons. Basically fighter. Critical strike. Mirror image. Oh, okay. So this is their attempt to make like an actual Blade Master. The song has been going for like 10 minutes. Enough with the Goblin Greed already. Sorry about that. There we go. I was getting old. Yeah, so they can cast Mirror Image at 7th level. Blade Whirlwind. So this is how they would do Whirlwind. They're hasted per the haste spell, and then gain an additional 5 feet of reach and a bonus to strength. And you can cast it once per day, and it lasts a number of rounds equal to the class level. I would just simplify that to 1 minute, since that's what D&D 5e does. And yeah, kind of not very interesting, honestly. Horde Assassin is basically based on Garona, the half-orc. It's Horde only. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, wow, it's very boring. It just says the Horde Assassin functions the same as the Assassin prestige class. So it's basically just the Assassin on the Assassin Rogue class. But only orcs can be it, I guess, which is kind of dumb. Anyway, though, isn't this, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think it's really interesting to limit classes this way. Like, I personally think this is very interesting to, have certain subclasses only available for specific races or specific factions or whatever. I think that makes it interesting, and it kind of limits it in an interesting way. Like, I think limiting creativity like that has some benefits to it. But, it would have to be a setting thing as opposed to just one specific homebrew game, otherwise it's just like saying, oh, you can't be that, So in a Warcraft setting, that's kind of interesting. But, why can't, you got the SI7 stuff, why can't they be assassins? So again, that one's kind of dumb. Hunter is basically a hunter ranger. Yeah, not very interesting. Infiltrator is kind of weird. It's alliance only, and you have to have proficiency in deception and basically deception, because it says bluff and disguise, which both fall under that. You can gain a bonus to your AC based on your intelligence modifier, which is interesting. You have advantage on deception and insight checks. This one's weird. Connections. The infiltrator has friends in high and low places, starting at first level once per day in any inhabited environment, even one that she has never been to before. The infiltrator can check to see if she has a connection in the area. Roll 1d20 plus your class level plus your charisma modifier. The DC depends on the importance of the desired connection. So 10 is like a city guard, fence, or shopkeeper. 15 is a captain of the guard, thieves guild, lieutenant, or merchant. 20 is a city ruler. 25 is like a high ruler, like an archmage, the lord captain of the Knights of the Silver Hand. And then a 35 DC, which would not exist in 5th edition, it would probably be 30, is Jaina Proudmoore, Thrall, Tyrande Whisperwind. So that's kind of stupid, honestly. I mean, I don't know. I feel like you could just do that anyway, you know? Like, that doesn't have to be a class ability. This, that's the problem with 3rd edition in general. I don't know. Someday I should play it to try it out, but like, because some people really like it, but I just think it's just kind of silly, honestly, that some of these things are class abilities. Like, some of these I would just allow, you know? Like, I don't know. Like that one with the connections. And also there was like a bonus class I saw that was called like a ballooner or something, and it was like a goblin zeppelin driver, you know, and there was a whole class based on that, and it was all just like you take less fall damage. It was just really weird, and so I don't know, 3rd edition was just really weird. Mounted warrior, this is basically just like Tyrande, you know, that sort of thing. You can just get special mounts. It's basically, honestly, the mounted combatant feat covers this entire class, which is kind of a shame. And then they do paladins their own way, which is kind of interesting. Basically, they have lamb hands. They detect good and evil. But the way it works is, let's compare it with the way paladins work on this, because it is somewhat interesting. Okay, so let's look at a vanilla paladin and compare it to the paladin warrior. That's how they differentiate it from normal paladins in D&D. Alright, so you got divine sense, lay on hands, fighting style, spellcasting, divine smite, blah 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 blah. I'm pretty sure they have all those. Divine sense, you can detect celestial, fiend, or undead. This detects just fiends. Okay, so that's a little bit weird because, I mean, paladins on Warcraft 3 and stuff are focused against undead, so I don't know why they nerfed that. Oh, detect undead. So that's a separate ability, I guess. Whatever. So that's the same. We got Aura of Courage. Yeah, I don't know why this is different. Like, what did they change about it? The only thing I would change is... Yeah, I don't think I would... I don't think I would change any of this, except for maybe I would give the paladins turn undead instead of the clerics. Yeah, that's the only thing I think I would do. They're not very different. And then there's a priest, which is basically this is so dumb. I'm sorry. If you guys like 3rd edition, it's great, but I just think 3rd edition is so dumb. Like, they just turn, you know, it's just not creative enough. Like, they have, at 9th level, the priest can impose her will in a group once per day. This functions exactly as if the priest cast mass suggestion. So, basically, you can cast mass suggestion without expending a spell slot once per day. Like, that's just, it's just kind of lame. Why have a whole class for that? Anyway, maybe I'm judging this. Like, maybe this book wasn't, like, you know, balanced very well for 3rd edition, but I just think it's kind of weird. Shamans are basically druids, but they can summon an elemental companion, which I think is kind of cool. You know, as opposed to a, you know, beast companion, they can summon an elemental. A small elemental companion. that is actually how the Wildfire Druid works. Summon Wildfire Spirit, small elemental. So I would allow, this to be a different type of elemental that does, cold damage if it's water elemental, immunities to cold, that sort of thing. In fact, I feel like a Circle of Elements would have been more fun for that. I don't know. I guess I haven't looked at it too closely. I think that's kind of got some Phoenix aspects to it, and then Warlock. I guess I should be looking at these. 1 sec, I gotta open this door. It's getting muggy in here. I guess I should be looking at these like requirements for prestige classes to see if any of them are interesting, but so far it's not. Oh, the Paladin Warrior is a prestige class. That's kind of weird. Oh, an initiate must seek out a paladin for training and initiation. Typically, the paladin assigns the supplicant a quest to accomplish that will certainly be a tremendous challenge to achieve. So that's kind of interesting. In order to be a paladin, you actually have to complete a quest, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, yeah, Shaman basically seems like a Wildfire Druid, Elemental Mastery. So they can turn elementals, just like paladins and clerics can turn undead. So that's kind of interesting. I don't think that's anything that druids can do. So that's kind of unique. Warlocks. What makes warlocks different? They basically get more conjuration spells. They get a demonic companion, which is basically the same as the Pact of the Chain. Augment summoning feat. That's what I don't like about 3rd edition as well, is there's just too many feats. It's just, you basically customize everything with feats. It's like, oh, the person gets this feat. It's like, why not just tell me what it is? He rebukes and controls demons. Interesting. That is one thing I thought was interesting, is that evil clerics, rather than turning and destroying undead, they rebuke and control them. And so, let me look that up. Maybe there's some sort of... Let's look this up here. Turn or rebuke undead. This is one thing that I think is very interesting, and I think death clerics should get this ability, in my opinion. A good cleric has a supernatural ability to turn undead. Evil clerics can rebuke undead. Neutral clerics can do one of the other player's choice, blah blah blah. Okay. Where does it say this information? Oh, here we go. Okay. So they turn... Oh, jeez, this is, ridiculous. Why not just put... See what I mean? It's so complicated. No wonder people thought only, math geeks like D&D. This is ridiculous. Just say the CR of the undead and the DC or something. Because this is just the cleric's level -4... +1, and then the result, anyway. Moving on. If a combatant has twice as many levels as the undead have hit dice, the combatant destroy any of the combatant would equal turn. Okay, so rebuked, combatant cowers as if in awe. Okay, I like that. So yeah, I feel like that's something that 5th edition could benefit from. If evil clerics could rebuke undead, then, turning undead... Let's look up at clerics. So I'm too used to reading 3rd edition now, and it's much more confusing. 5th edition, it says it a lot better. So... Okay, turn undead. Each undead that can see or hear you must make a wisdom saving throw. If the creature fails its saving throw, it is turned for 1 minute. A turned creature must spend its turns trying to move as far away from you as it can, and it can't willingly move to a space within 30 feet of you. It also can't take reactions For its action, it can only use the dash action or try to escape from an effect that prevents it from moving. If there's nowhere to move, the creature can use a dodge action. So, rebuked would be something like it is rebuked for 1 minute or until it takes any damage. A rebuked creature, I mean, would it be just incapacitated and... I guess let me look at that condition here. Cowers. Cowering. The character is frozen in fear, drops everything held, and can take no actions. Okay, so I would just say they're incapacitated. Or stunned, maybe? See, that's the problem, is like, I feel like stunning an undead would make it more powerful than making it frightened. I would just say maybe they're a rebuked creature. Oh, interesting. It doesn't even say that there's a frightened condition. Huh. Anyway, I would just say a rebuked creature cannot take actions. You know, that sort of thing. And then the destroy undead table would change to instead control undead table, where it would just like take control of undead of CR or whatever. So I don't know. I guess that's kind of overpowered. Anyway, I think that's about it for this book. So moving on to Alliance and Horde Compendium, I'll just go real quick through the races and classes of this, which could be interesting if you are playing a Warcraft D&D campaign. So, Wildhammer Dwarves. Like I said before, I'm pretty sure those would fit just fine as Hill Dwarves. In this, though, they gain a little bit. Like, they get... they're brave, so that's something kind of interesting. I would allow that. I would add brave to their list, because Hill Dwarves... What's Hill Dwarves? I think they just get a bonus to hit points and wisdom, right? Wisdom score increases by 1, your hit point maximum increases by 1, and increases by 1 every time you gain a level. So yeah, I would allow Brave, the halfling ability, maybe instead of the Dwarven Toughness. And then they have, like, you know, attack rolls with hammers because of their storm hammers. And then they probably have something about animal handling checks with griffins. Yep, they have advantage on... They basically have advantage on animal checks related to griffins, which I think is kind of silly. But I would say maybe they could have proficiency in animal handling. Would make sense, I guess. Alright, Blood Elves. So, Blood Elves have +2 Dexterity, +2 Intelligence, and -2 Constitution, which is kind of weird. Oh, their slight frames make them frail. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so Blood Elves, what makes them different? Arcane Ability. They have the racial ability to cast 4 cantrips. Wow. They cast them as a first-level sorcerer in all respects. Huh. Okay, so that makes sense why they're, like, they have their own class level. The racial ability is handled separately from any spell casting the Blood Elf performs as part of its class ability. Yeah, increased caster level. So, owing to their long and intimate study of arcane knowledge, magic, Blood Elves are considered to have an effective +1 caster level in all their arcane spellcasting classes. So yeah, basically they start out as a first level sorcerer. That's kind of what it seems like. And then there's this thing about fell damage, you know, like fell magic. It like corrupts you, but it like is its own type of damage that nothing has resistance to, something like that. Yeah, they get the ability to use meta magic, depending on if they cast it with a fell spell. Magic addiction. Alright, this is kind of interesting. Blood Elves are addicted to arcane energy. A Blood Elf must spend time each morning resisting the distractions of addiction or suffer a penalty to spells and saving throws against spells, which is interesting. And so they can cast they can't cast spells at higher levels, which is interesting. And then the penalty on saving throws against spells is interesting because it's almost like when they get cast, they almost like want to get hit by a spell to feel the mana. That's kind of interesting. And that just happens each day. It's not cumulative. And then if they're in the Twisting Nether, they don't need to worry about it because there's magic everywhere. And leaving the Twisting Nether, its lingering energies are sufficient to stave off the addiction for a number of days equal to the Blood Elf's Wisdom modifier. Okay. Kind of weird. And then they're good at concentration checks, I guess. I don't know if that's a thing. I mean, maybe, I guess that could be kind of a cool racial ability. You have advantage on concentration checks, like on, like Warcaster. That's the power of a feat, which is what variant humans have, so I don't know, kind of interesting. Okay, furbolgs, and not the giant furbolgs, and not the cow furbolgs that Matt Mercer made up. It's the bear furbolgs from Warcraft. They strength and constitution, they're large, which doesn't work, obviously. I feel like 5th edition could benefit from a bear folk race. You know, there isn't really anything like that yet, and I think it could be beneficial. They're proficient in nature and survival. They have natural armor. That could work, kind of like lizard folk. And that's it. Oh, they have claws. Okay, so the claws have unarmed attacks, and I was thinking that it was going to be like give them climbing speed, but nope, it just does 1d6 damage, and they can bite for 1d8 damage. So that's closer to a lizard folk, strangely enough. This is very close to a lizard folk, including the natural armor bonus. Okay, if you wanted to be a furbolg, you could just be a lizard folk, and then I guess instead of a swimming speed, you could add a climbing speed? I've learned quite a few things already today. This is kind of interesting. Namely, you know, the half-orc, half-elf thing. I mean, I guess a Leonin could be a pretty good... let's look at Leonin real quick after this. If you wanted to go vanilla translation over to 5th edition, I think lizard folk work. Yeah, you could change that to climbing speed. There's a bite attack. You could kind of get rid of this, I guess. Hold breath, I guess, doesn't work. And then 2, nature and survival, yeah. Natural armor, the hide, basically a bear hide, and then hungry jaws, you could add that, I guess. So yeah, these are really close to furbolgs, but Leonin have claws. I think that should be 1d6. Isn't that what... Yeah, bites have 1d6 piercing damage. I think that should be 1d6. That's really lame to have 1d4. Daunting roar. I guess that doesn't really fit with a bear. Yeah, so strangely enough, lizard folk works as a bear folk race too. Gnomes. They're not really different from gnomes in Warcraft, or in 5th edition as far as I know. Gnome hooked hammers, that's a weird thing. Perception, listening checks. Gnomes have keen ears. That seems like kind of a stretch. If I'm not mistaken, gnomes in 3rd edition have a bonus to smelling perception checks, which I guess maybe they're just saying that gnomes in Azeroth have big ears as opposed to big noses. And then gnomes begin play with 1 bonus technological feat. So they're basically rock gnomes. Yeah. Okay, now we're getting into some interesting stuff. Here are a few new races here that might be kind of interesting to tribute. Well, the middle one's a blood elf, we already talked about them, but trolls and Naga. Let's see how they work in 3rd edition and how we could make them work for 5th edition. Naga are weird. So this is what is interesting about Naga. They're sexually dimorphic, meaning the males are big and strong, and the females are small and smart. Both types of Naga get +2 dexterity. Males get +2 strength, but females get +2 intelligence. Which is another interesting thing that 5th edition doesn't do, and I feel like they will never do because they're super politically correct. I don't think they would ever make a sexually dimorphic race. But I think it would be cool, you know? Like, for Naga, that'd be cool if it's like males are strong and females are intelligent. Like, you know, like be a strong fighter if you're a male. I don't know. I think that's how it works in Elder Scrolls as well, if I'm not mistaken. Alright. Naga's swim speed, obviously. Dark vision, obviously. Why did I not think of this before? Obviously, Nagas fit best as Tritons. I don't know why I didn't think of this. Alright, that's what Sea Witch should be. Tritons. That just makes way more sense. Because they can swim. They can breathe air and water. It's not just holding your breath, it's actually breathing air and water. And then control air and water, that fits really well with the Naga Sea Witch. This is where I would do the dimorphism. I would say females get this ability, and then males maybe get something else, like claws. You know, you could have claws that do 1d6 slashing damage on attacks like lizard folk. But it's more interesting in here, as you'll see in a second. So, they've got, you know, those bonuses, swimming, natural armor bonus. Males have a higher natural armor bonus, which is interesting. It's almost like males are lizard folk and females are tritons, which is kind of interesting. But they're both amphibious or something. Naga heal twice as quickly when they're underwater, which is very interesting. You could say if you're underwater, you can, like, maximize your hit dice when you take a short rest or something. I don't know why. It says female Naga have uncanny dodge. I'm not sure why. Okay, here's the interesting part. Mutation. Naga heroes begin play with a single mutation, chosen from the standard mutations list below. Here are the mutations. Bite, a bite attack that deals 1d6 points of damage. Claws, you gain 2 claw attacks, each deals 1d4 points of damage. Extended dark vision, your dark vision extends to 120 feet. Ink jet, you can basically cast fog cloud underwater 3 times per day. So in that case, I would change it to just once per short rest. Tentacles. You have 2 extra limbs, which are long writhing tentacles. They're incapable of fine manipulation, cannot be used to attack, wield weapons, open doors, or pretty much anything else. This is how I would change that. There's a new race that's possibly coming out with like a Spelljammer book coming out at some point. And they have Thrycreen, which are basically ant folk. 2 pairs of arms. So how does this work? Secondary arms. You have 2 slightly smaller secondary arms below your primary pair of arms. The secondary arms function like your primary arms with the following exceptions. You can use a secondary arm to wield a weapon that has the light property, but you can't use a secondary arm to wield other kinds of weapons. You can't wield a shield with a secondary arm. Huh. So they took that in a different direction than this does. Like, this seems to mean like you can just... They can't attack, wield weapons, open doors, but they can grapple. Okay. And they can wrap around opponents and crush them. So when you grapple, you automatically deal 1d6 plus your strength modifier damage. Bludgeoning. That's kind of cool. And then thick scales, the Naga gains an additional +2 natural armor bonus. Kind of interesting. That would obviously change to 13 plus your dex modifier as opposed to 15 plus your dex modifier if you're unarmored. And then there are greater mutations. but this adds a +1 to your level adjustment for a total of +2. So you start out as a level 1 Naga, but if you take a greater mutation, it's a total of +2. So you're like a level 2 Naga. That's kind of crazy. Let's see here. And it says NPC Naga are commonly more mutated than PC Naga, which is kind of weird. Anyway, okay, so these are the greater mutations. Blind sight through 60 feet, through fine hearing, vibration detection, and subtle temperature cues. That's kind of interesting, I guess. Heavy scales, you get an additional +4 natural armor bonus. So that would mean you get a bonus to something like, let's see, is it +1 or 2 originally? So that would be like a 17 unarmored base. I don't think that would work in 5th edition, because you could cheese it with like a barbarian or monk race or something. Extra arms. You have 2 additional arms, which can be used to do anything arms can do. Basically how Naga sea witches, I think, have 4 arms. Right? Do they? Am I remembering correctly? Naga. Okay, yeah. Weird. I never really noticed. Yeah, she's got 4 arms, but she doesn't... Does she use them that much? She attacks with those ones, and the other arms just sort of flap in the air. That's really kind of funny. Is there anything she does? Okay, she casts a spell while she's holding her glaive thing. But otherwise, wow, that's funny. I never really noticed that. So yeah, basically you would get 2 extra arms instead of the 2 extra tentacles. Fast healing. I don't know what fast healing is. It doesn't say. It says, see the monster manual. Improved tentacles. It's like the tentacles mutation, but they do 1d10 damage. And I think you have... Oh, and you have improved grapple, the grappler feat, basically, because the tentacles have powerful suckers on them. Kind of funny. Natural weaponry, you get 2 claw attacks to deal 1d6 damage. Which book? This is the Alliance and Horde Compendium. So I already went through the Warcraft role-playing game, and this is like one of the expansions to it. Size increase, you can change to large. That makes sense for males. They seem, I mean, if you look at, you know, the difference between males and female Naga, you know, that's obviously large, especially if you take a human and compare their size. Yeah, see, so that's clearly large, where the siren you could conceivably see as medium. And then Naja is their language, apparently. And yeah. Okay. Guess it's probably boring for you guys to just watch me explain this with nothing else for visual, so let's bring up what I'm talking about. Okay, Pandarans are what we're talking about now. Alright. You know what? I'm going to read the description for Pandaren, because I bet it was a lot different back then before Pandaria, Mists of Pandaria was set. Hailing from their own secret empire, the Pandaren are a race of humanoids resembling panda bears. This appearance leads some to underestimate these noble creatures, thinking them as harmless and cute. They may be cute, but they are not harmless. Pandaren have a long tradition of mystic warfare and are exceedingly strong and agile. The traditional Pandaren fighting style focuses upon mobility, speed, and precision, as well as stunning acrobatic tricks. Many Pandaren are skilled at fighting barehanded. Only the Pandaren know the intricacies of their society, but alcohol is a central feature. All Pandaren are connoisseurs of ale and stronger drink, leading to a unique kinship with Ironforged dwarves. A caste of wandering Pandaren warriors called brewmasters is highly respected in their culture. A few brewmasters have been spotted in Kalimdor, searching for new beverages to sample and ingredients to add to their own brews. see Founding of Durotar. What's his name? Chen. Pandaren are affable and noble, trained in battle but always seeking peace. Pandaren philosophy centers on a harmony of opposites, male and female, calm and chaos, existence and non-existence, basically yin and yang. Pandaren feel a strong link to the natural world and seek to maintain a peace between all races of nature. Alright, that wasn't as interesting as I thought it would be. Pandaren average 5.5 feet in height? That seems short. For an average, anyway. Alright, let's see here. Pandaren hail from the distant island nation of Pandaria, which no non-Pandaren has ever seen. And then you look at how many races there are in Pandaria. What a joke. A splinter group of Pandaren arrived on Kalendor in the aftermath of the Third War and has established itself in the Stone Talon region of the Barrens. I did not know that. Okay, let's move on to their racial traits. Dexterity and Constitution, which is an interesting combination. They have a speed of 20 feet, which would be translated in 5th edition to 25 feet. Why does it say they're agile and if they have a slower speed? That's weird. They have a climb speed of 15 feet. That's basically normal. It's half speed, so I don't know why that's... So basically, they, I guess, have proficiency in athletics or something, but they have, like, I guess, a climbing speed. Natural armor bonus since they're bears. Low light vision. Okay, this one's weird. Quadrupedal movement. Pandaren are bipedal creatures, but their pseudo-ursine forms allow them to move at tremendous speed on 4 limbs. When a Pandaren drops down to all 4s, his speed increases by 10 feet. The Pandaren must have nothing in his hands to use this ability. That's basically the Worgen Running Wild ability, right? That is weird. And a funny mental picture, too. And then they've got, like, Chinese, pen spears and Shaktani swords or whatever. Natural weapons, teeth and claws. Claws 1d4, bite 1d6. Oh, that's a mess. Honestly, I would just make them furbolgs like I was talking before, like lizard folk, except with a climbing speed and I don't know. Anyway, a while ago I did some World of Warcraft D&D adaptations, so maybe we'll get to those in a minute, and we'll see how I kind of at least attributed their World of Warcraft ones, because that is boring. Okay, jungle trolls. Okay, I did not agree with jungle trolls, the way that they depict them in this thing, and I'll show you why. I don't like blue, or I don't like red. Okay. Jungle trolls, here we go. Okay, listen to this. This just does not make sense to me. +4 strength, +4 constitution. -2 intelligence, -2 charisma. Trolls are not that big. I mean, I guess if you're thinking of, like, that one Warcraft 2 drawing of Metzen, you'll know it when you see it. This right here. Even that, I mean... Okay, that's not good resolution, but you see what I'm talking about, right? I don't consider them as large. I don't consider them as having +4 strength and +4 constitution. It just doesn't really make sense, and so that I don't agree with for sure. But let's keep going. It says they're medium, so why would they have such high strength? Anyway, normal speed, dark vision, not really sure why. I mean, they don't live in caves or anything. Fast healing. jungle trolls recover 1 hit point per round. That seems overpowered to me. I like my idea of being able to spend a hit die as an action or bonus action instead, because then you're like sort of tapping into your regeneration ability, but you only have a limited amount based on your hit points. The most that I would ever agree to do is say you can roll a hit die and gain hit points equal to the max on the roll. You know, like that's as much as I would do, and that's even pretty generous, I think. But at least it puts a limit on it. Like recovering 1 hit point per round, I mean, that's basically... I mean, if you drop to 0 hit points, you wouldn't even need to roll death saving throws, you know? That's crazy. Stealth and survival are skills that they have. They also have swimming, which is a little weird, but it kind of makes me more inclined to make them as lizard folk if you ever wanted to play them on 5th edition. Their favorite class is barbarian, which kind of surprises me as well. I just don't think trolls fit in this, you know? Like, I don't think that they were given a very good rap in this book. Like, it just doesn't really feel like whoever wrote this was thinking about the established lore of trolls very much. I mean, look at this Shadow Hunter. I mean, there aren't any barbarians. They're always ranged attackers. There's like a headhunter. I mean, I guess a berserker, but like, you know, I wouldn't consider him a barbarian. I mean, I guess they go into a rage, so okay, fine, sure, yeah. But, you know, they're always like ranged. They have shaman abilities. The witch doctor's got his wards and spells and stuff. That's all the jungle troll units right there. Oh no, there's one more. That's all the jungle troll units right there, and none of them seem barbaric except for this one, so that seems odd that that's the favored class, but that's just me. Okay, so let's look at... I should have been doing this before I like this. Okay, let's go look at some prestige classes. Death Knights. They have kind of a cool special requirement. They have to be evil, obviously. And then it says, to become a Death Knight, a hero must vow before Ner'zhul or one of his designates to serve the Scourge, be accepted, and then receive a vampiric rune blade forged specifically for him, which I think is really interesting. So, vampiric rune blade. Once the rune blade is used to turn a hero into a Death Knight, it becomes that knight's personal weapon and is slowly charged with the life energies of those it injures and slays thereafter, which is pretty cool. After 4th level, the Death Knight's rune blade becomes a +2 weapon and may cast darkness. At 7th level, it becomes a +3 weapon. At 10th level, it becomes a +4 weapon and can cast blindness on any target it successfully hits. Very cool. As of now, the Artificers are the only classes that have sort of item-based abilities. But I think this class has a lot of potential, actually. I mean, I said Oathbreaker Paladin earlier on, but I think this could be a really interesting fighter subclass. Where basically you would have like a greatsword or something that would level up with you, you know? Like you just kind of automatically have it, and you wouldn't need any magic weapons because you'd have this one that was leveling up, and then maybe you could choose its abilities as you leveled up, you know? Like you could choose to cast... Okay, actually, the more I'm thinking of this, the more this seems more like an Eldritch Knight, which is fine. Let's take a look and see if this could be sort of a variant on an Eldritch Knight. An Eldritch Knight could be a good place to start with this, though. You get cantrips, you get spell slots, wizard spells of 1st level and higher, and they must choose from the abjuration and evocation spells. Okay, and if we were doing a modified Eldritch Knight, what I would do is make it so you could choose from the necromancy and I guess evocation or abjuration. Maybe I could just add necromancy to that spells on the wizard spell list, because that would make sense. but I don't know. That makes sense. Anyway, then you learn spells, learn a certain number of spells, blah, blah, blah. Weapon bond would make sense. So you could definitely flavor that as the Vampiric Runeblade. When you use your action to cast a cantrip, you can make one weapon attack as a bonus action. That's cool. Your weapon strikes undercut a creature's resistance to your spells. Yeah, so this could be a really good fit, I think, for Death Knights, but I don't know. You'd have to add some, like, necromancy spells. Anyway, they get, like, some life-stealing abilities, but you could just say Vampiric Touch was a spell that you get access to and stuff. Okay, Demon Hunters. These are weird. So, Demon Hunters, the way that they make Demon Hunters work on this are... Alright, they're proficient with weapons, but they have unarmored... They don't wear armor at all. So they're like wizards, I guess. See why they're weird? So they get spells, but they can wield any weapon. It's almost like they're like blade dancers or something. And then you get a war blade, which I guess is those like glaives, you know, like the war glaives on that Illidan has or whatever. Oh, I'm surprised it didn't have a female Demon Hunter. Okay, so you get war blades, and those are kind of like what we were just talking about, how they level up with you, and they can become a flaming weapon on command. Oh, this is a very weird thing. So, to become a demon hunter, a hero must find a demon hunter who's willing to lead her through a series of complex rituals. These rituals involve capturing a demon, sacrificing it in order to bind a portion of its spirit inside the hero. And the ritual also requires that the hero burn out her eyes with a magically heated blade in order to contain the demon spirit. So this is where it gets kind of weird. You get something called enlightenment, which is this, you basically get blind sight. Like you blind yourself completely and you get blind sight through your, you know, magical energies that you're just sensing the world around you. You can't perceive colors. Let's see. You have a 360-degree field of vision, so you can't be surprised, which is interesting, at least within your blind sight. And the range of your blind sight increases with experience. And so it starts out as, I don't know what the initial range is, but it says expanding an additional 15 feet for each level of Demon Hunter, which is interesting. You can detect evil as per the spell at will. That's kind of why they're like rangers or paladins. And then transformation. Upon becoming a demon hunter, the hero's skin becomes pale and drained of color. You can be detected by spells that detect chaotic energy or possibly fiends. So that's kind of interesting too. You register as a fiend because of the fiendish spirit inside you, basically. You gain resistance to acid, cold, electricity. Okay, acid, cold, lightning, fire, or thunder damage. At 7th and 10th level. At 10th level, you become a fiend and take on a clearly demonic appearance. And you get like a bonus to touch attacks for some reason. And then you get mana burn, which is really weird with spell slots. I'm not even going to go into that. You get evasion like a rogue. And yeah, just some weird stuff. Immolation. I mean, they tried to make this the just individual spells. You know, it just doesn't work. Okay. Dwarven Avatar. So, this is an interesting one. This is basically a Mountain King. I wonder if I can... is there a morph? Okay, it's not a... dang it, it's not a state. Okay. I wonder how Avatar works, actually. I'm really curious now. If it's not an animation thing, then how does it work? Avatar. Caster, that's just the focus and dawn effect. Unit skin list? Interesting. Effect sound, cooldown duration. How does this work? It doesn't have any animation names. Huh. I never knew that. That's very weird and very hard to understand. Okay, anyway. The Dwarven Avatar is pretty cool. Like the picture. And they basically... You have to be an Ironforged dwarf specifically, which makes sense. Not a Wildhammer dwarf, because, you know, the Ironforged dwarves are more in tune with the mountains and stuff like that. This is kind of interesting. So, to become a Dwarven avatar, an Ironforged dwarf must make a pilgrimage to a shrine to the Titans, found in Baal Modan and at most major Dwarven excavations where Titan artifacts have been discovered, and meditate undisturbed for 3 days without food or water. So that's kind of interesting. I thought that their thing was different. I thought it was something about going into the mountain and doing some weird ritual that involved beer or something. Oh well. Anyways, so these are some of the abilities. Stone Tell? I don't know what Stone Tell is. That's a spell that doesn't exist in 5th edition anymore, so let's look up that real quick. You gain the ability to speak with stones. Okay. So I guess commune with nature is what I would replace that with. Unarmed attack with fists of stone. Does that make sense? Improved stone cunning. Basically, you just get a better stone cunning, which I guess is kind of cool. That's kind of a ribbon ability, if you ask me. Earth Stance. You can become nearly immovable. You gain a big bonus on ability checks made to resist being knocked prone. As long as you're in contact with the ground. That's interesting. Strength of the Titans. You gain a +2 inherent bonus to strength, and at 7th level you get a +4 bonus, 10th level you get a +6 bonus. That's obviously a little much, but I would allow some sort of bonus to that because that's an ability that the barbarians get. And I would allow that the maximum get increased as well. Greetings. Glad that you could join us as well. Stone Skin. You can cast Stone Skin, I'm guessing without expending a spell slot or material components. I think that could be kind of cool. And you can cast it once per day at 5th level, twice per day at 7th level, and 3 times per day at 9th level. I don't really know how the levels would work with a prestige class, so I'm going to leave that on its own. The Bash feat, of course. They have feats for certain abilities, like the Bash ability on Mountain Kings, which I think is kind of dumb, so we'll move on from that. Alright, next is the Marksman, which is a little weird because there's nothing like this in the game except for, I guess, the Rifleman. It says anybody can be one. Yeah, it's probably based on the Rifleman. So, the Rifleman basically just gets... This is basically a Renegade, like I talked about earlier. Sharpshooter, feat, range disarm, range sunder. This is just kind of the gunslinger, basically. Or Renegade. Necromancers are a prestige class, which I think is kind of weird. But I guess, given how powerful necromancers are in Warcraft. I guess they're a little more powerful than just a simple wizard in the necromancy school, I guess. They're basically just a wizard, and they get... Okay, this is basically just the necromancer subclass. So if you just made the necromancer subclass a prestige class with... There's not even a requirement. I guess you could just require that they're evil, which I would do that anyway, you know? Like, necromantic energy, I've had players before that are like, my necromancer is trying to teach that necromancy can be done for good, but, I mean, you're playing with souls that just want to be at rest, you know? Like, there's nothing good about that. It's like, well, the skeletons can plow the fields, and it's like, yeah, but you're, like, torturing a soul that just wants to rest, so the evil makes sense. But yeah, this just has like death resistance where they're like, you know, it's basically the stuff in the necromancer subclass, which let's take a look at that really quick. Yeah, inert to undeath, resistance to necrotic damage, your hit point maximum can't be reduced. You know, just stuff like that. And then they have Undying, which is interesting. They basically become the undead creature type. They no longer age or need to sleep. That's interesting. Immunity to poison, sleep, paralysis, stunning, disease, death effects, and necromantic effects. And ignores mind-affecting effects. Okay, that's obviously way overpowered. He's not subject to critical hits, which I think has always been stupid in old D&D versions. I mean, yeah, they're undead, but they still have weak points that would cripple them, so I think that's kind of dumb. He has no constitution score, and is therefore immune to any effect that requires a constitution save. Unless it affects objects. I don't know what to even think about that. What does that mean? He is not at risk of death from massive damage, but when reduced to 0 hit points or less, he is immediately destroyed. Ah, that's the downside. Okay, all right. He's not subject to subdual damage, non-lethal damage. That makes sense since you just get destroyed if you're at 0 hit points anyway. Uses his charisma modifier when making concentration checks. I guess you'd have to if you don't have a constitution. How can you not have a constitution score, though? That would screw up your hit points, right? Weird. Necromancer cannot be affected by raise dead or reincarnate spells or ability, though resurrection and true resurrection can affect him. Whew, that is a weird ability. So basically you become like really powerful and immune to most conditions, but if you're ever reduced to 0 hit points and your constitution modifier gets basically... I just don't get what no constitution score means. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's like... That means you get like a -5 to your hit points for every level you have or something crazy like that. So I guess I would just... I mean, this is a crazy class, but if I did do that, I would just say your constitution modifier becomes 10. You automatically succeed on all constitution saving throws. Immunity to poison and necrotic damage in most conditions, but if you ever reduce to 0 hit points, you get fried into dust, basically. I don't know. That's a really weird one. And then they have, like a necromancer spell list, which is all the spells that you might consider. Okay, this one's kind of a weird one. This one is a primal, which is, I think, the first depiction of a female troll ever drawn. And they're hideous. I think that's before they kind of made them a little more feminine and stuff. Ugh. Samwise, you have a weird art style when it comes to drawing women. Okay, so primals, it says, in battle some warriors fight as though possessed, while others truly are. Primals are those warriors who revel in their bestial rage and give in to it completely. As they slowly take on an increasingly beast-like appearance, they also gain powerful and violent new abilities. Okay, Alright, any chaotic alignment, which makes sense. Primal gains stand at death's door. Okay, I don't know what stand at death's door is, but basically this can easily be summed up as the Path of the Beast Barbarian. It's as simple as that. You get like big teeth or claws or tail or whatever, climbing, jumping, blah blah blah. Rabid, you're rabid, like that's all primal is, so that's pretty easy to make. War Mage is just kind of weird, like it's there's different types of battle magics. Okay, these are, I guess, kind of interesting and worth looking at, maybe. So I don't know what a War Mage is supposed to be. I'm just gonna say, one of these guys, I guess. Although they're probably in the game somewhere at this point. Anyway, so yeah, there's Awe. You can make an impressive display of magic that causes all enemies in a 100-foot radius to suffer a penalty on attack rolls. So I guess they all just get disadvantage on attack rolls or something. If you can see them. You cast Darkness, but the radius is increased. Electrical Strike, you can cast a maximized version of Lightning Bolt. Huh. Okay. Eye in the Sky. Once per day, you can spy upon distant locations if you cast Clairvoyance, basically. Fog of War, you can cast Hallucinatory Terrain. Healing, you can cast Cure Wounds. Plague, you can cast Contagion. Quagmire, you can have the movement speed of all enemies in a 100-foot radius. That seems kind of overpowered, but okay. This is kind of interesting, though. It's almost like a, it's almost like a Battle Master, but it's a Battle Mage. Like, you get some... Oh, whoops. I have to put that up. It's almost like a Battle Master maneuvers, but they're just interesting ways to use spells, I guess. So this is actually really interesting. I think this would probably be a wizard subclass. And these are like... They're almost like no, they're not really like Eldritch Invocations. They're more like those, Way of the Four Elements spells, like just different ways to cast spells, I guess. Storm, the War Mage may cast Control Weather. Unfailing Blade, the War Mage may cast True Strike a number of times per day equal to rewards mage's level. I'm guessing True Strike was different back in the day because in the current game it's a really crappy cantrip. So yeah, whatever that might be. Awareness, they become better at defending themselves than other wizards. So yeah, this would basically be a war wizard, but they would maybe get some interesting new maneuvers, I guess. But those ones all seem a little too powerful to me. So yeah, I don't know. Is it, oh, interesting. Yeah, and they're like depending on your level, so kind of weird. Alright, there's a Wind Rider, which shows a picture of a Griffin Rider, but I'm sure that it would also mean the equivalent of that with... I think this was before Wyverns were called Wind Riders. This is actually the class. So this Prestige class, this is pretty boring, honestly. It's basically the mounted combatant feat, but it's for flying mounts. You can bond with your mount, kind of like in a Beastmaster sort of way. Weather Sense. When entering the Prestige class, the hero must select a flying creature that will be her mount, as the Prestige class belongs to the mount as much as to the rider. If the Wind Rider's mount is killed, the character must obtain a new mount. Huh. That's weird. Yeah, and so there's like different things like flyby, which is actually kind of cool. I don't know why you have weather sense. I guess it's to aid in flying so you don't fly through a storm or something. You have proficiency with shields. yeah, I don't know. So that is that for the Alliance and Horde Compendium. And lastly, I just want to show you guys Magic and Mayhem, which is kind of an interesting combination of spells and technological devices, which I'm not going to go into entirely, but I did adapt them all into 5th edition. So if you would like access to all the technological devices in this thing adapted to 5th edition, just let me know on my Discord, and I will let you know. I'll give you the link. It's like a Google Sheet or whatever. Alright, so this book is just fun to read, honestly. Like, I think there's like, since this book, I think this book might be out of print, so if you wanted to look online, I'm sure you could find a PDF for it, but this has a lot of interesting things about, for example, magic addiction, or arcane corruption is what this is called. So you can do basically sort of meta magic things, but when you know, magic in Azeroth attracts demons, right? And so the idea behind this is the more you cast these spells, the more corrupt you get, and it's depending on the school of magic that you cast, which is interesting. So when you cast too many abjuration spells, well, when you cast any type of spell too much, your minor corruption is that you become a magic addict, basically like blood elves, like we talked about earlier. And then moderate and major depend on the school. So moderate abjuration corruption is you become notably defensive, you shun intimate contact with others, and will not willingly make physical contact with anyone in any circumstances, even to save a close friend's life or to cast a touch spell, which is pretty funny. In other words, you have to make a wisdom save in order to do any of that, or you just can't do it. Become notably suspicious of food and drink, will not share food or eat it offered by others. And then the major is you basically just become super paranoid. You become reluctant to travel or perform any action that might be considered dangerous, and you become suspicious of others. So it's kind of funny. It's like abjuration. It's like the idea behind abjuration is to protect yourself, and so if you become corrupted by it, you become just extremely paranoid. Conjuration is you become attached to creatures that you summon. You care about them more than real ones. And then the major corruption for conjuration is summoned creatures. Creatures just randomly get summoned close to you without you even trying, which is pretty funny. And then healing, which I guess was different in every edition, because in this one it says conjuration, but in 5th edition it's evocation. Anyway, healing, moderate corruption for healing is you fail to heal by natural means. You have to use magic to heal, which I think is really funny. And major is your flesh becomes rotten and decaying. If you do not receive healing magic, you start getting disfigured, which is really creepy and weird. And then there's also another conjuration corruption for teleportation. Whenever you teleport, you briefly pass through the twisting nether, which is interesting. You have to make a dexterity save, or a random demon will attach itself to you as you teleport, which is funny. And then major is whenever you fall asleep, you randomly teleport 2d6 miles in a random direction. Divination is you become highly superstitious to the point where you're completely ruled by auguries, portents, and other superstitions. So you basically start doing weird rituals at the end because you just can't function anymore. Enchantment is you just love enchanted, like you eat magically created food, you don't like real food. And you just like being around constructs and things that follow your every will. You find coexisting with creatures that have free wills very difficult, which is funny. Evocation. the weather basically within a mile radius around you is like bad. There's like a thunderstorm that follows you around. And then major is whenever there's stormy weather, you just get into a violent mood. And when you see fire, even a candle, your instinct will be to spread it, which is kind of funny. So basically just like think, destruction on Elder Scroll or something. Illusion, you start becoming detached from reality. You become convinced that illusions are real. And if you've killed somebody, you start being tormented by ghosts. And major is basically you lose touch with reality. You constantly have visions of friends betraying you. You have no idea what's real. Pretty creepy. Necromancy is what you might think. You fail to heal by natural means. You start rotting. Animals run away from you. You start being detected by detect undead spells. And then major is like you prefer death to life. You sleep in a coffin. You hate living creatures. You just like being around undead creatures, which is pretty funny. Transmutation is pretty creepy. You basically grow like extra fingers, extra toes, extra nipples, creepy birthmarks. And then the major is like you just start getting like tumors, eye stalks, vestigial hands growing out of your elbows and knees, mouths on your stomachs. Ugh. Kind of creepy. So that's Arcane Corruption for you, which is pretty funny. So let's just skip to real quick the different classes since I've done them, and then we'll call it a night. Let's see. So there's a Rune Master, which is kind of cool. Apparently, Taurens and let's see, who are the races that can be one? I think it's Tauren and Dwarves. They both discovered this form of magic because it's like based on the Titans or something. It's basically a monk class, but they can place runes, and there's like different things called like, there's different types of runes. And you can like do different types of rune families or something. And there's a difference between like marks, glyphs, and sigils. Like one is on objects, one is on creatures, and one is on yourself or something. It's weird. I don't know how I would put this into 5th edition. It would basically just be kind of a weird, I'd have to work at this. It'd have to be a homebrew monk subclass. But yeah, it's a weird class for sure. I'd have to study it. I don't even know really how to explain it. Bombarder. Gnomes looked so weird back then. Like, honestly, that's weird stuff. I think all they had to go off of was some drawings in the Warcraft 2 manual. Bombarders, I'm pretty sure that they're just tinkers that go into this prestige class. You can throw bombs, you can destroy objects, like you have better, you deal double damage to structures and stuff. You maximize the damage from bombs that you throw. There's an engineer, which I guess is like just see, this is where things start to get weird. See, like an engineer, it's basically like an artificer, but there's like some weird specialization where you can write schematics and like work together to make technological devices. Honestly, it's pretty stupid. And then there's the Graven one, which honestly does not look like anything in Warcraft before. I don't know if they were trying to like promote this. I mean, it looks Warcraft-ish, but it's basically just a necromancer, and you craft bone stuff. Like you make armor out of bone. It's weird. And there's a Shadow Hunter, but it's basically just a... Well, actually, this is kind of interesting. Spirit of the Loa. So you can learn Battle Stride. You just get a bonus to initiative checks with your allies, I guess. Healing Wave. I don't know. This is kind of dumb. Like, honestly, these kind of just copy spells. Hex. That's basically polymorph. It says once per day the Shadow Hunter may change a single targeted individual into a frog. I mean, come on. It's basically just polymorph. Serpentine form. You can change into a snake. Like, it's just weird. Like, you can throw a lightning bolt and it does 1d4 lightning damage. That's pretty lame. What the heck is a ranged touch attack? That's like an oxymoron. I don't know. That's a weird one. There's a Spirit Walker, which is probably just as weird. Ethereal form, of course. Steam Warrior is pretty cool, but it's basically just an Artificer Armorer. A Warden has some interesting... I mean, this is literally just like on Warcraft 3. There's Slicing Torrent, which is basically Fan of Knives. There's Blink, Shadow Strike, and Avatar of Vengeance. It's just, and I mean, I guess they have a few law-based spells that like they could use to defend a prison, like Alarm, Command, Detect Poison, Detect Traps. So I guess there's kind of a cool dungeoneer aspect in it. And you can only be Night Elf, that sort of thing. There's a Witch Doctor that has weird brews, and that's about it. Oh, yeah, this is all the different rune families for the Rune Master. See, it's pretty weird, but I mean, I don't know, it's got some possibilities. I don't know. Anyway, that wasn't as fun as or exciting as I thought, but it was fun to talk about all this stuff. Honestly, I like these role-playing game books. The World of Warcraft is definitely kind of a fun thing to explore in 5th edition. Like it really is like easy to do, I'd say. A lot of the spells can be sort of just reskinned to fit Warcraft, and if you use the spell points form of spellcasting in the DMG, then you could simulate mana, that sort of thing. So anyway, so just to end, I have these items that I've made over the years, and it's every Warcraft 3 item made into a 5th edition item. And I haven't checked these for a few years, so they might be pretty bad. It was back when I was kind of bad at like balancing them and stuff. But, you know, just as like a quick example, like if you guys want access to this, then let me know. I'll just pick one randomly. Legion Doomhorn. That sounds kind of cool, right? Alright, it's a rare instrument, horn, basically. It says, this horn seems to have been fashioned from the desiccated horn of an undead dragon. Yeah, I guess I can see that. When blown, all allies within 60 feet who can hear the blast can immediately spend as many hit dice as they wish as a reaction. In addition, they gain 10 feet to their walking speed for 1 minute, and during this period, opportunity attacks against them have disadvantage. So it's pretty cool. I just realized that this has no charges to it, which is probably bad. It should probably have like 3 charges or something and regain the suspend charges additionally done. What is a Doom Horn of? Did I even... Okay, it grants them life regeneration and movement speed. So it's Unholy Aura. So that's kind of how it flavors that one. So anyway, yeah, if anybody's interested in these, let me know on Discord. You can request it or whatever. I did work on these pretty hard, and so I don't want to like just share this willy-nilly. There's also a bunch of other ones. There's Zelda items, there's RuneScape items, Terraria items. I've had a lot of boring time at work over the past several years. Here's the Might and Magic items. So anyway, there's all of these, and then I've also made the first level of Scourge of Lordaeron as a Warcraft adventure, and it's got kind of the stuff that I talked about today as like just sort of a summary of all the changes that you'd need for Warcraft. You know, humans, dwarves, resistance to cold damage instead of poison damage. You know, it's just a very simple way to play it or something. Eldritch Knights are not available. Paladins are the unique human class. Gunslingers, I would use Renegades, are the unique dwarf race. You could use Artificers instead, actually. And then Rangers are the unique High Elf class. Blah, blah, blah. It just kind of, you know, gives a few things of these. And then this is a adventure of the Defense of Strombrad, adapted to Warcraft, to 5th edition. Including, you know, the little Timmy side quest, and fighting Mathog, the slave master. So, anyway, if any of you are interested in that sort of thing, just let me know on Discord. And, yeah. So, this was pretty fun, talking about Warcraft and D&D. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. May your blades never dull.